Chapter 276. When he was in the second layer of heaven, Muyu was looking for underworld grass. As a result, he encountered a strange creature that called itself the Phantom. Muyu's mind was implanted with a false dream by the Phantom. That dream almost made Muyu collapse, but it was also that dream that made him understand that he had unknowingly fallen in love with Tian Ran. That simple girl had recklessly snuck away from him to the Moyun mountain range to find her biological father, Jianing Chunfeng. She had even used her own body to block a sword for her father when they were fighting with Gui Xinhua. She clearly knew that the person in front of her was her father, but she was afraid of disturbing him and did not dare to acknowledge him. She was a very kind girl. When Muyu was frustrated, she was the one who accompanied Muyu and comforted him. She even taught Muyu the childish great tree thumb technique to chase after Lan Ling. Although Muyu's ending after using the great tree thumb technique on Lan Ling was very sad, he did not know when it started. Lan Ling had long left Muyu's heart and was replaced by the simple girl, Tian Ran. The Phantom's dream made Muyu face his own heart. He understood his feelings for Tian Ran. He said that when he came out, he must make it clear to Tian Ran. He must loudly say, "I like you," to Tian Ran. He did not want to miss any opportunity. Whether Tian Ran liked him or not, he did not want to have any regrets. There was a little bird singing in his heart. He wanted to go forward. He wanted to hold Tian Ran in his arms. He wanted to hear Tian Ran call him Big Brother Muyu again. He wanted to tell everyone that he liked Tian Ran. He wanted to protect Tian Ran from any harm. But could he? Muyu looked at Tian Ran, his body trembling slightly. Did he dare to directly fly forward to Tian Ran and tell her everything? Would he dare to reveal his true identity in front of everyone? He could not. His identity could not be exposed. He had to do more important things. He could only endure. Tian Ran, I won't let you down. Muyu's heart ached. He looked at Tian Ran standing there, as if she was facing death. She was willing to fight for the human race. She was much more unyielding than him. She was trying to make up for what he had done wrong. But what was he running away from? What if she lost? What if the Yao clan injured her? Muyu clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He could only stand there and watch quietly as Tian Ran stood up for the human race. He couldn't do anything. He had let his beloved girl fall into a dispute because of the trouble he had caused. Was he worthy of being a man who loved her? Muyu lowered his head. He wanted to go out and beat up those demons, but what about his master? The most important thing for him now was to find his master, help his master recover his cultivation, and save the millions of humans in the Moyun mountain range. If his identity was exposed, would he still have a chance to escape? Compared with his master, whether or not he defeated the demons seemed to be insignificant. Yes, at that time, it was these self-righteous humans from the 3 continents who let down Master. Master gave up his supreme cultivation for them, but they went back on their word, causing Master to helplessly watch as millions of people died. Was the glory of these humans so precious? But Tian Ran was his master's daughter. If something happened to Tian Ran, how could he face his master? Muyu's heart was in a mess. He could only look at Tian Ran, his eyes full of guilt and tenderness. The moment Song Wanzi saw Tian Ran appear, his old eyes suddenly lit up. At this juncture, it was rare for someone to be willing to stand up. Not to mention, this was a girl in the 9th heavenly layer of the nascent soul stage. She was like charcoal in snowy weather, giving him a glimmer of hope. Red Dust Sect disciple Tian Ran greets Elder Piao and seniors. Tian Ran landed on the ground and bowed respectfully to the 3 of them. You're Yuyin's disciple? Piao Fairy was surprised. She was also a member of the Red Dust Sect, so she didn't expect to see Tian Ran here. Tian Ran nodded and floated out. She stood in the air and looked at the demons. Her eyes seemed to be searching for something, then fell on one of the demons. That person's clothes were whiter than snow, and she was dignified and elegant. Her otherworldly temperament formed a sharp contrast with the demons around her. Xiao Shui also noticed Tian Ran looking at her. She didn't understand why this human girl was staring at her when she didn't know her. Tian Ran looked at Xiao Shui and said softly, Are you the girl who escaped with the help of Big Brother Muyu? I heard that it was Big Brother Muyu who saved you. Where is he now?" When the words Muyu came out of her mouth, both the humans and demons were slightly startled. The human cultivators were all too familiar with the name Muyu. Muyu had traveled from the withered tree valley to the floating immortal island, then to the pill cauldron sect, and finally to the second heavenly layer. His name had already spread throughout the entire cultivation world. There was basically no one who didn't know of Muyu. However, no one expected that Tian Ran, who represented the human race, would ask about Muyu's whereabouts. Many people's expressions stiffened when they heard Tian Ran mention Muyu. Taoist Yuan Hua was the same. However, he revealed a meaningful smile and looked at Tian Ran. No one could tell what he was thinking. Muyu? The Muyu who saved the demon monarch? And Xiao Shui? The members of the demon race could be said to be familiar with Muyu. After all, it was this human who had saved the white ape demon king and Xiao Shui. This was also the reason why the demon race had the confidence to stand here today. Many of them knew that ever since Xiao Shui came back from the second heavenly layer, she had been muttering the name Muyu the most every day. Many people were curious about what kind of superhuman ability this Muyu had to be able to make Xiao Shui, who was like a little princess of the demon race, think about him so much. Yes, I'm the person you're talking about. However, I don't know how Muyu is right now. Xiao Shui didn't expect someone to ask her about Muyu. She suddenly felt inexplicably irritated. Why did this girl have to mention Muyu? What was her relationship with Muyu? Why did she call him so intimately? "What's your relationship with Muyu?" Xiao Shui asked. Even she didn't hear the faint provocation in her voice. It was as if she was deliberately trying to verify something. "What's my relationship with Muyu?" Tian Ran was caught off guard by Xiao Shui's question. A trace of panic appeared on her face. This question was so simple, but she didn't know how to explain it. That's right. What was her relationship with Muyu? Wasn't Muyu just her senior brother? She only knew Muyu because of her father. They were like siblings. However, after living with Muyu for a year in the falling dust mountain, she always felt that there was a subtle relationship between the two of them. It was just that she didn't notice it. When Xiao Shui asked this question, Tian Ran's heart suddenly became clear. Did she really only treat Muyu as an older brother? Did she not have any other feelings for Muyu? As if she had made up her mind, Tian Ran mustered up her courage and said firmly, "Muyu is the person I like." That's right. Tian Ran had hidden this sentence in her heart for a long time. She also liked Muyu. After living with Muyu for a year in the falling dust mountain, she gradually fell in love with this warm senior brother. She liked Muyu standing up for her. She liked Muyu's wackiness. She liked everything about Muyu. She didn't know when Muyu had already occupied her heart. However, when she heard that Muyu couldn't come out of the second layer of heaven, she panicked. It was as if she had lost the most important thing in her life, causing her heart to ache. At that time, she understood that she really liked Muyu. So what if the entire cultivation world was against Muyu? Even if the whole world was against you, I would still like you without hesitation. Tian Ran's face showed a determined look. She didn't regret saying this sentence. She wanted everyone to know that she liked Muyu. You like him? Xiao Shui's face suddenly turned pale. Why did this girl like that guy? Why did she feel uncomfortable when she heard these words? She didn't like Muyu, did she? But why did she care so much about Tian Ran's words? Xiao Shui remembered what Muyu had said to her in the second layer of heaven. Do you want to know why I helped you? Because you said that you liked me in your dream. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Muyu shook the water spirit and said, "Is this a token of love? That guy clearly had someone he liked. So why did he say these strange words to her? Why did he help her?" All the cultivators listened to the conversation between the two in a daze. They didn't understand what was going on. Tian Ran liked that Muyu, but Muyu had violated a great taboo in the cultivation world, and Tian Ran was the hope of the human race. She was also the Red Dust Sect Saintess. How could they be together? A trace of change appeared in Misty Fairy's strange eyes. She looked at Tian Ran, and a trace of fluctuation appeared on her calm face. She seemed to have thought of something and frowned. Misty Fairy knew who Tian Ran's mother was. Back then, Tian Ran had violated a great taboo as a saintess and had given birth to Tian Ran with a man. However, Miao Yin refused to say who the man was even if she was beaten to death. Because of this, she was imprisoned in the Red Dust sect for life and was not allowed to leave. Now, Tian Ran actually liked a traitor of the human race. Were both mother and daughter so unreasonable? A trace of anger appeared in Misty Fairy's eyes. She wouldn't let the same thing happen again. Tian Ran's talent was one in a million among the disciples of the Red Dust sect. If she fell in love with a traitor of the human race, then it was very likely that Tian Ran's future would be ruined. That's right, I like Big Brother Muyu. Tian Ran didn't care about what others thought. She remembered that her mother would rather be imprisoned in the Red Dust sect for life than tell anyone who Tian Ran's father was. This was because she didn't want to bring any bad reputation to the true gods of the three continents. She also didn't want Jian Ying and Chen Feng, who didn't know anything, to feel guilty. However, Tian Ran was different. She felt that if she liked someone, then she should boldly say it and leave no regrets. Muyi was already dumbstruck. When he heard Tian Ran's words, his shriveled heart suddenly swelled up. Tian Ran also liked him. Tian Ran liked him. She liked him. Muyu had always wanted to say this to Tian Ran, but he didn't expect Tian Ran to say it first. Tian Ran, I also like you. Chapter 277. 8 Grass Village's battlefield had a subtle change because of the 2 girls. Big Brother Muyu saved you, but you came here with the demon clansmen to cause trouble. Do you dare to fight me? Tian Ran pointed at Xiao Shui and said. Xiao Shui bit her lips. After being provoked by Tian Ran, her heart was inexplicably upset. The words Big Brother Muyu made her very uncomfortable. Tian Ran boldly said in front of everyone that she liked Muyu, which made her very jealous. She took a step forward and wanted to fight, but she was stopped by White Ape Demon King. Xiao Ming, you go. White Ape Demon King said. He knew that Xiao Shui was not in the right state and was in a bad mood. Everything related to Muyu would affect her. This time, they came to destroy the prestige of the human race, so they could not make any mistakes. Xiao Ming's majestic body appeared on the battlefield again. His expression was still very simple and honest, and he looked a little silly. But all the self-cultivators knew that if they really treated him like a silly bear, they would not even know how they died. You're shameless. This demon has already fought, and you still want to fight? Immediately, a self-cultivator cursed in dissatisfaction. That's right. You're too much. White Ape Demon King laughed loudly and said, The rules I just set did not mention that we can't send another demon to fight, right? The result of the 10 battles is still the same. Besides, I already gave you humans a chance. You humans can send 2 people to fight the same demon from our demon clan, but you voluntarily gave it up, right? All the self-cultivators were speechless. They had indeed overlooked this point. In fact, it did not matter. No matter how the demon clansmen played tricks, their overall strength was much higher than the current human race. No matter who they sent, wouldn't it still be the same? The human self-cultivators looked at the demon bear that was almost 3 times bigger than Tian Ran, and then looked at the thin and weak Tian Ran. There was a huge contrast between the two. Everyone was secretly worried for Tian Ran. The tragic scene of Yang Li being slapped by Xiao Ming once again appeared in their minds. They were afraid that Tian Ran would also be destroyed by this unromantic bear demon. Tian Ran looked at Xiao Ming. Her clothes fluttered in the wind. Her cultivation of the 9th layer of the nascent soul realm spread out. She was gentle, but with an unyielding tenacity. Her momentum was not inferior to Xiao Ming's at all. Tian Ran stared at the other party. She knew how the other party would attack and how strong the other party was, but she was not afraid. I don't really know how to be gentle with women. After Xiao Ming finished speaking, he turned into a huge black bear in the blink of an eye and pounced towards Tian Ran. The black bear was already 10 meters tall in its original form. In front of it, Tian Ran was like a delicate doll. When it slapped down, there was a faint sound of explosion in the air. The battle between the beauty and the beast almost made many people nervous. Some people were even afraid to close their eyes, not daring to watch a flower wither. Even a genius like Yang Li could not withstand a single move from Xiaoming. Could Tian Ran defeat the demon race? 7 lotus shadows quietly appeared and surrounded Tian Ran. Tian Ran was like an otherworldly fairy. The immortal dew sword in her hand danced dexterously, affecting the lotus shadows. In the instant that the black bear pounced, Tian Ran stepped on the lotus and retreated. Her hands moved continuously, and the 7 red lotuses bloomed leisurely. Thousands of petals fluttered and scattered. Along with the sword chi of the immortal dew, they turned into a lotus bird and rolled towards the black bear. The black bear roared. His palms suddenly erupted with powerful demonic energy, tearing the lotus bird to shreds. The lotus bird dispersed and turned back into petals. Each petal was tightly attached to the black bear. The black bear clumsily waved its thick arms, trying to disperse the petals. However, it found that the petals were very nimble and could always dodge and gather at the right time. Tian Ran's red dust lotus calamity seems a bit different. The sword in her hand seems familiar. When did your red dust sect like to use swords? Yuan Hua Daoist was a bit surprised and asked Piao Miao Fairy. Piao Miao Fairy was silent for a while before saying, Tian Ran's sword came from her master. What's different from ours is that her sword can make the red dust lotus calamity display more power. We never understood why. The people of the red dust sect did not understand why. That was because they did not know that the immortal dew sword in Tian Ran's hand was one of the 9 heavenly swords of the true god sword shadow, Chun Feng, of the 3rd heaven. It was quite funny. Everyone in the 3rd heaven knew that sword shadow Chun Feng had 9 extremely powerful heavenly swords. However, no one had seen it with their own eyes. The petals that filled the sky slowly formed into dancing ribbons that surrounded the black bear. Faint ripples spread out from the ribbons. When the black bear's palm landed on the ribbons, he thought that the ribbons would be instantly destroyed. However, the ribbons were incomparably soft. The moment the black bear came into contact with them, they had already caved in. Every punch of the black bear's was like hitting cotton. It made him feel as if he could not exert any strength. The black bear was especially sullen for being hit by the ribbons. His tyrannical brute force had lost its advantage at this moment. It would always be dispersed by the petals of the red lotus at the right time. What the hell? The black bear shouted loudly. His right palm lit up with a gray, fiendish light. Violent, demonic energy suddenly condensed in his hand. The surrounding spiritual energy all gathered towards his palm. He accumulated power. His right palm was like a strange whirlpool, gathering all the demonic energy in his body in the center of his palm. Human, lie down. That palm seemed to have destroyed the surrounding void. Waves of ripples flashed within it, and there were even traces of thunder. All the self-cultivators' faces changed slightly. The black bear's palm was already faintly like an out-of-body attack. This demonic fellow was actually so strong? Everyone could not help but sweat for Tian Ran. She was only a teenage girl. Could she really take this palm? The black bear's palm, which had been accumulating power for a long time, was already slapping down towards Tian Ran. The red lotus petals spun rapidly and surrounded the black bear's right palm. However, as soon as the petals approached, they were crushed by the violent aura without any resistance. The bear's palm slapped the red lotus petals. The earth-shattering explosion that everyone had imagined did not appear. The ribbons formed by the petals kept rolling and fluctuating, creating waves that quickly passed through the surrounding ribbons. Then, they slowly swayed towards the back of the black bear's head. Bang! At this moment, the roar exploded. The black bear had no idea what had happened. He clearly punched towards Tian Ran. However, he suddenly felt his head become stuffy. It was as if his fierce and tyrannical punch had hit his own head. He could not be mistaken about that familiar power. But how could he hit the back of his head? Xiong Ming did not understand. He could not think about it anymore. His vision turned black. He had actually been beaten unconscious by this power. Boom! The black bear's huge body fell to the ground, raising smoke and dust. The ground seemed to shake, causing everyone's heart to tremble. He won. The insufferably arrogant black bear demon lost to a weak little girl just like that? For a long time, there was complete silence. Many people found it hard to believe. Xiongming's valiance was obvious to all. When he fought with the human genius Yang Li just now, he only used one slap to knock Yang Li down. Such terrifying power had long been deeply ingrained in people's hearts. However, they never expected that Xiongming's power would seem to be ineffective in front of Tianran. Instead, he was ruthlessly defeated by Tianran. Good fight. The cheers were earth-shattering and earth-shattering. All the cultivators roared in excitement. Originally, after Yang Li was knocked unconscious by Xiongming's slap, everyone felt that the younger generation of the Fey race was invincible. However, Tianran defeated the black bear demon and saved the day for the human race. Under such circumstances, the first victory of the human race was undoubtedly very important. Many people felt elated. They had vented their anger as they cheered for this weak little girl. What a good move. Borrowing strength to fight strength. Taoist Yuan Hua praised. Tianran used the red lotus to divert the black bear's violent palm strike. Then, she guided it to the back of the black bear's head. It could be said that the black bear demon had been defeated by his own indomitable palm strike. Xiongming's strength was incomparable. His skin was rough, and his flesh was thick. However, no matter how strong he was, being hit by his own accumulated strength, especially at the back of the head, would not be justifiable if he did not get a concussion. Tianran was able to use the red dust lotus spell to use softness to overcome Xiongming's brute force. Then, she transferred all the brute force to Xiongming. This was enough to show that Tianran had used her red dust lotus calamity to the point of perfection. Tianran stood there. The red lotus was still floating. Her weak body was so tall in everyone's eyes. This was the first victory of the human race against the Fey race. It greatly boosted the morale of the human race. This weak girl would definitely be the focus of today's competition. According to the rules of the Fey race, who will you send next? I will take all of them. Tianran knew that there was no one else in the human race present who could fight except for her. She forcefully swallowed the blood in her throat. It seemed that she had won easily, but in fact, only she knew that she had also suffered internal injuries in this battle. Xiongming's cultivation had reached the peak of the ninth heaven of the Yuanying realm. It was even possible for him to win if he fought against a cultivator in the first heaven of the out-of-body realm. With Tianran's current cultivation, it was still difficult for her to use softness to overcome Xiongming's brute force. Although she had neutralized the black bear's huge force, there was still a part of the force that she had not completely guided to the opponent. She could only bear this part of the force herself, so she was injured. The power of the Fey race was really terrible. Between the human race and the Fey race at the same cultivation level, the Fey race's power was definitely stronger. Tianran, come down first, Songwanzi said quickly. He naturally saw that Tianran had been injured. If she continued to fight with the next Fey race, the situation would not be good. She had just won back a little face for the human race. This was enough. At least the human race would not lose completely and lose face. In any case, he could not let her continue. He had to slow down first. Senior, I can still fight. Tianran shook her head. Now only she could punish the Fey race. No one else could. She knew that this matter was caused by Mu Yu. If she liked someone, she needed to help him bear the responsibility. She had the obligation to help Mu Yu solve this matter. Big brother Mu Yu, I know that you have your difficulties in releasing the Fey race. You must not want to see the human race being bullied by the Fey race, right? Tianran's green gauze fluttered, the red lotus danced, the breeze blew, and the petals swirled. Her weak body looked so stubborn. The sun shone on her body, making her look so radiant, like a lotus flower rising out of the water, making people admire her. It was a young girl who had just experienced her first awakening of love, fighting for the young man she liked. If God allows me to see you again, I must tell you that I like you. There is no reason for it. It's just that I like you. The infatuated girl had a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. It was a shocking sight. In Muyu's eyes, it made him feel like his heart was being twisted by a knife. That simple girl was fighting the Fey race for him, but he could not protect her. In that dream, do you still like me? In the dreamland, Tianran fell into his arms and asked these words. The dreamland of the phantom allowed him to know his own heart and understand his feelings for Tianran. He once said that he would not let Tianran fall into his arms like in a dream. He would protect her. No matter when and where, he would keep her safe. So what if his identity was exposed? He would always save his master. Even if he had to go through thousands of hardships, he would not leave his master alone. However, he would never let Tianran take risks for him. Tianran was his master's daughter. If something happened to Tianran, then his master would not forgive Muyu. No one could lose because of anyone. He had to do the current thing well, so that he would not regret it later. Muyu's eyes became extremely firm. He looked at the back of the simple girl and smiled. Silly girl, I'm here. Muyu thought of Kumu. He had never understood why Kumu would make such a choice. For a woman, he made himself unpopular. He was even willing to help his rival in love, Feng Haochen, recover his cultivation and help the man he hated all his life. Muyu now understood that if love could break through all obstacles, then everything Kumu did for Miao Yuyin was proof. Kumu sacrificed so much for love. If he knew that Muyu watched Tianran get hurt, he would also reprimand Muyu. Silly girl, you don't have to carry those burdens that don't belong to you. You just have to rest at ease and watch how the young man you like fights for you. The aura of the 9th heavenly layer of the nascent soul stage spread out. The strong fluctuation of spiritual power was so conspicuous, like the morning star in the dark night, overshadowing everyone. Even those out-of-body stage youths seemed so humble. Yes, he wanted to fight for himself, for the girl he liked. This was the reason. He didn't need to worry too much. Liking someone was very simple. He just didn't want her to get hurt. Song Wanzi glanced at Muyu in surprise. He had checked this ordinary young man from the beginning. His cultivation was only in the Jindan stage. How did he suddenly become the 9th heavenly layer of the nascent soul stage? Did he hide his cultivation level from my eyes? How is this possible? The thin and weak body disappeared into the crowd and slowly landed behind Tianran. He put his hand on Tianran's shoulder. The familiar aura instantly melted Muyu's heart. He wanted to hold Tianran in his arms and listen to her call Brother Muyu. He would never let go. Little girl, let me take care of the rest. Chapter 278. Tianran looked at the unfamiliar face, and the hope that had just lit up in her eyes dimmed. Her expression was one of melancholy. Wasn't it him? Tianran smiled. How she wished that Muyu would appear in front of her. Then she would happily giggle, throw herself into his arms, and cry to her heart's content. That person who was worried about her and yearning for her soul. Where are you right now? Do you know how much I want to see you again? But she only saw an unfamiliar face, a stranger that gave her a sense of familiarity. She thought that the familiarity was just her own misconception, an illusion that arose from her longing for that person. Be careful. Tianran put away the disappointment in her eyes and politely nodded. Since there was someone else at the 9th heavenly layer of nascent soul, there was nothing wrong with replacing her. She didn't try to be brave. If this stranger lost, she would just go up. She turned around, her back to him. Two ignorant people, who didn't understand what love was, stood back to back and walked further and further away. Muyu wanted to reveal his true face and tell her that he was here, but he didn't do so. If he revealed his true face, it would mean that the human race would collectively crusade against him, and they wouldn't believe him. It would also bring trouble to Tianran. Tianran also wouldn't think that the youth she yearned for day and night was standing behind her at this moment. She recognized that person's breath and voice, but she thought that she had mistaken him for someone else. Tianran suddenly stopped in her tracks. She didn't turn around, but softly said, "Can I know your name?" Muyu smiled. "Is this important?" "Yes." Was this important? The important thing was that he didn't let Tianran fight for him, and that was enough. But Muyu knew that he had stood up for the human race, so he needed a name, a name that could convince people. My name is Lawn Foam, Muyu said casually. Tion Ran nodded and left, returning to the crowd. The three seniors would certainly look after her, so Muyu didn't have to worry about anything for the time being. Muyu gently rubbed his hand, and the veins of plants wrapped around the sword. In order to prevent Tion Ran from recognizing him, he could only do this. He saw that Tion Ran had already sat down cross-legged with Piao Miao Fairy's help. She closed her eyes and began cultivating. He was relieved. Only Tion Ran could recognize his swordsmanship. He had to end the battle quickly before Tion Ran recovered. The White Ape Demon King looked at Mu Yu suspiciously. He felt a familiar aura, but he had never seen this boy before. What was going on? Lark, you go. Be careful, this guy doesn't look simple. The White Ape Demon King cautiously said. With his intuition as a 1,000-year-old demon, he always felt that there was something wrong with Mu Yu. The one called Lark was a lark demon. She was very beautiful, and if it wasn't for the gorgeous feathers on her head, no one would think that she was a demon bird. Lark's figure turned into a shadow and landed in front of Mu Yu. Demon race, Lark. Human race, Lawn Foam. Mu Yu called Lark's voice very pleasant, just like a lark's, crisp and melodious. As soon as her voice fell, her figure disappeared again. Her speed was so fast that it made people feel as if there were hundreds of shadows around her. Mu Yu didn't make a move. He only looked at the swift figure, waiting for the opponent's attack. Thousands of rays of light suddenly appeared in the sky. Those were beautiful, colorful feathers, and each feather was suffused with a unique light. They looked so beautiful and colorful. However, Mu Yu knew that each feather carried a biting, cold, killing intent. If he was careless, he would be pierced into a hedgehog. However, he had seen all kinds of second celestial layer monsters. When he was in the demon race's underground palace, he was not afraid of thousands of bloodbaths, let alone these insignificant feathers. Lark Demon Bird, when I was in the second celestial layer, I defeated a 5th rank monster. Even if the monster turned into a demon, I would still fight without hesitation. Mu Yu's eyes flashed. Now that his strength was no longer the same as before, he didn't fear Lark, who was in the 9th celestial layer at the same time. His shadow sword had already been unsheathed and evolved to the 8th style, falling shadow destruction. The sky was filled with sword shadows, and the sword light was tens of thousands of feet high. In an instant, the sword shadows met the flying feathers in the sky. The swift and fierce sword shadows and the colorful feathers intersected, emitting a faint cry. The flying feathers, filled with killing intent, were completely destroyed by the sword shadows. Tens of thousands of feathers had already turned into ashes. Lark hid in the feathers, singing melodiously, as if it could penetrate a person's soul, causing their eardrums to tremble. Lark's pleasant cry was an irresistible lullaby. It could control a person and then kill them without them noticing. However, Mu Yu had already guarded against this move. There were many second celestial layer monsters, and he had seen Lark Demon Bird before. At that time, there was a 5th rank Lark Demon Bird that used its singing to lure Mu Yu, and Mu Yu almost fell for it. However, at that time, Xiao Shuai, this weirdo, also sang an out-of-tune song, disrupting the rhythm of the lullaby. To deal with this kind of monster that relied on sound to attack, the easiest way was to imagine a tone that was not in harmony with the other party's song. As long as it was not in tune with the other party's song, one would be immune. Xiao Shuai poked his head out, cleared his throat, and said, "Do you want me to sing? I have composed a new song, Xiao Shuai. It goes like this. I am your little apple. No matter how much you love me, it will never be too much. My handsome Xiao Shuai warms your heart, lights the fire of your life. Hee. Stop singing, stop singing. I'm already immune to it." Mu Yu felt that he was really shameful. He actually hummed along with Xiao Shuai's tune in his mind. How shameful. Lark frowned. She was very confident in her singing. Just as she was about to attack Mu Yu took a step forward, and the flying sword in his hand was already at her neck. One move, and the Lark Demon Bird was defeated. Next, Mu Yu coldly looked at Lark. If Lark dared to resist, he would not hesitate to seriously injure her. He did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. The monsters were too rampant, and it was time for them to be taught a lesson. Silence. The audience was silent. In the first 2 rounds of the competition, the demon race defeated the human race with a single move, leaving the human race powerless to fight back. But now, Lan Feng was using the same method, defeating the demon race with a single move. Who said that the younger generation of the human race could not defeat the monsters? Tian Ran defeated the black bear, and Lan Feng defeated the bird demon in 1 move. What is the background of this Lan Feng? I don't know. I've never heard of him. Whatever, as long as he won. The crowd suddenly burst into cheers. The humans had been thoroughly defeated in the first 2 matches. It was time to let the monsters know that the humans were not pushovers, and that there was a reason why the humans ruled the world. Whether it was Tian Ran or Mu Yu, both of their moves were clean and efficient. Tian Ran spent more time than Mu Yu, and the monsters were defeated in less than 3 breaths. This was a big slap to the monster's face. White Ape Demon King's face was ashen. He was the one who broke the rules first and allowed his people to fight repeatedly. This time, Mu Yu wanted to continuously challenge him, but he had nothing to say. His heart was filled with anger, and he wished he could capture this brat and cripple him. The monsters once again sent out a snake demon. Against the snake demon, Mu Yu's method was even faster. Many of the humans were not familiar with the monsters, but how could Mu Yu not be familiar with them? In the end, the monsters evolved from monsters. When Mu Yu was at the 2nd heavenly layer, how could he not have dealt with them? Pung! The snake demon's huge body fell down again. Mu Yu was like a god, giving all the self-cultivators hope. Defeating the monsters, to Mu Yu, was not worth mentioning. The monsters still have 1 nascent soul cultivator left, isn't that right? Mu Yu still coldly looked at White Ape Demon King. When he was at the 2nd heavenly layer, he could have killed him with 1 palm, but because of his relationship with Xiao Shui, he let him go. He did not expect that the Demon King would cause such trouble after recovering his strength. A long-lost smile finally appeared on Tsang Wanzi's face. Mu Yu had defeated the monsters twice in a row, and he had won 3 out of 4 battles against the human nascent soul cultivators. This could be considered to have saved his face. As long as the nascent soul cultivator won the last battle, it would be a heavy slap to the monster's face. As for the out-of-body stage, Mu Yu should be able to delay until the others arrived. Thinking of this, Tsang Wanzi planned to calm Mu Yu down and tell him not to win the last battle too easily. Wait, in the next battle, we monsters want to have an out-of-body stage battle. White Ape Demon King knew that the current situation was not optimistic. The out-of-body stage reinforcements of the human side had not yet arrived. Now is the best time to win the out-of-body stage battle. It was estimated that they would not be able to win the last battle of the nascent soul cultivators. Tsang Wanzi did not expect White Ape Demon King to make such a request. The rules they had just agreed on did not specify the order of appearance, which allowed White Ape to take advantage of this loophole. This treacherous and cunning monster king was worthy of being an old monster who had lived for thousands of years. Mu was also slightly angry. If the monster race had sent a 9th heavenly layer out-of-body stage cultivator to challenge him, he would not have been able to withstand it. But now that the reinforcements had not yet arrived, the out-of-body stage humans present were no match for the opponent. What should he do? Originally, Mu Yu had planned to deal with the monster race in the last battle to stall for time, but White Ape Demon King did not give him any chance at all. What should he do now? Sooner or later, you monsters will have to compete. Are you monsters so slow? Mu Yu pointed the sword in his right hand at White Ape Demon King. Suddenly, the auras of Mu Ling and Shui Ling came from the sword. Shui Ling seemed to be very happy to see Xiao Shui. Shui Ling's aura flashed and disappeared, but it did not escape Xiao Shui's perception. Xiao Shui would not mistake a Yumon's sacred object like the Shui Ling. She had been with that familiar aura for so long. So how could she mistake it? However, the Shui Ling was clearly on Mu Yu's body. So why did this person have the aura of the Shui Ling? Is this a token of love? Xiao Shui recalled the scene when she had handed the Shui Ling to Mu Yu and the scene of Mu Yu teasing her. Of course, it was not a token of love. It was just a token. There was no way Xiao Shui would make a mistake. The water spirit's aura was pulsing rhythmically around Mu Yu's body. It was so harmonious, just like the endless waves of a river. How could she not recognize this aura? But why did this young man in front of her have the aura of the Shui Ling? Was he Mu Yu? But Mu Yu did not look like this, so who was he? I'll fight you. Xiao Shui stared at Mu Yu and took a step forward. She wanted to figure out why the Shui Ling's aura would appear on this young man and what had happened to the real Mu Yu. Xiao Shui, don't make trouble. White Ape did not know why Xiao Shui suddenly wanted to compete with Mu Yu. What he needed to do now was to win as many victories as possible for the monster race, so he could not allow Xiao Shui to disrupt his plans. Chapter 279. Why did you suddenly decide to compete with me again? Mu Yu looked at Xiao Shui quietly. He didn't want to compete with Xiao Shui, nor did he want to hurt her. Xiao Shui was the same as him, having the 5 elements Yumeng ability. He had always wanted to find an opportunity to explain this to Xiao Shui alone, but he never had the time. Now that Xiao Shui was standing in front of him, it could be said that this was an excellent opportunity, but with so many cultivators around, he couldn't bring himself to say it. Why do you have the aura of the water spirit on you? Xiao Shui clenched her teeth, her heart trembling slightly. She wanted to know the truth. She clearly gave the water spirit to Mu Yu, but it appeared on this person's body. Was this person in front of her really Mu Yu? Mu Yu sighed in his heart. Just like Mu Ling was now connected to him, the water spirit was also connected to Xiao Shui. At this moment, the water spirit was circling around Mu Ling's sword, hiding in the shadows. When it pointed at White Ape Monster King, Xiao Shui was right next to him, and the water spirit actually moved. At this moment, Xiao Shui suspected that he was Mu Yu. So what should he do? Should he just admit it? Admitting it was impossible, and it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to walk out of this village. It was impossible for cultivators to let him go. If you beat me, I'll tell you why the water spirit is on me. Mu Yu's Mu Ling pointed at Xiao Shui. Now that he was representing the human race, he could only fight seriously with Xiao Shui. However, Mu Yu didn't expect that the water spirit would suddenly rush out of the shadow swords, as if it had returned to its master's embrace, happily circling around Xiao Shui, looking very excited. Mu Yu was stunned. The water spirit was like his rotten wood, coming out to cause trouble at the slightest provocation. This made it even harder to explain to Xiao Shui. Why do you have my water spirit? Where did that person go? Xiao Shui could feel the joy radiating from the Shui Ling, but she couldn't bring herself to feel happy. Could it be that this person in front of her had killed Mu Yu and taken away the Shui Ling? Xiao Shui's water spirit had already dispersed, and the sky was filled with mist. Her heart was in a mess. Was this young man really Mu Yu? If so, why did he look like this? If that wasn't the case, why would he have the water spirit? Did something happen to Mu Yu? Who the hell are you? Xiao Shui coldly shouted as the mist in the sky instantly turned into icicles and rushed towards Mu Yu. Why are you using the water manipulation technique? Mu Yu was shocked. His body floated and instantly left the encirclement of the icicles. His sword light flashed and shattered countless icicles, but he didn't counterattack. When he saw Xiao Shui use the water manipulation technique without caring about the consequences, he knew that this matter was tricky. Xiao Shui using the water manipulation technique in front of so many self-cultivators would definitely cause a huge uproar. Mu Yu remembered that his master once told him that there were 5 people who had Yumon's ability. But because the human race hated Yumon very much, it was impossible for the human race to believe these 5 people, so they had to hide their abilities well. But when Xiao Shui saw him today, she was somewhat restless and immediately used the water spirit's ability. Sure enough, Xiao Shui's water manipulation technique had attracted the attention of many self-cultivators. Shui Yumeng, your demon race is actually colluding with Yumeng? When Song Wanzi saw Xiao Shui's technique, he immediately became furious and coldly questioned. White Ape Demon King laughed. What? You can't even differentiate between a human and a Yaman? Does Shui Yaman look like this? Have you forgotten that your human race's array faction and talisman faction can use all kinds of 5 elements techniques? Are the array faction and talisman faction people also Yaman? The array faction and talisman factions techniques are only simulated 5 elements techniques using spiritual power. Your water manipulation technique is real. When Song Wanzi saw the sky full of icicles around Qiao Shui, he was unable to restrain his anger. There were 2 factions on the 3rd continent that specialized in array faction and talisman faction. Their techniques could indeed simulate fire, ice, and the like, but those were only created with spiritual power, which was different from the water Qiao Shui could control. Song Wanzi naturally saw that Qiao Shui was a human, but he didn't think that Qiao Shui was from either talisman faction or array faction. No wonder you human race can't completely eliminate the Yaman. Once the Yaman cause trouble, you suffer heavy losses. If you human race had someone who could control 5 elements techniques, you wouldn't have to kill your own people when fighting Yaman, right? White Ape mocked. Once the human race encountered Yuming's invasion, their methods were very decisive. Just like when Mu Yu encountered Hui Yuming's rampage in Mist Breath City, in order to eliminate Hui Yameng, they didn't even spare the ordinary human race who couldn't escape the fire in time. Could it be that she is one of the 5 legendary people? Song Wanzi gasped inwardly. Since some time ago, a rumor had been spreading in the 3 continents that there would be 5 human beings who possessed the power of Yumeng Devil Clan, and that these 5 people would influence the war between Yumeng Devil Clan and human beings. Whichever side they stood on, that side would be able to gain a huge advantage. Song Wanzi, like most people, didn't trust these 5 people. If the rumor was true, these 5 people should have been destroyed before they matured. Cultivators wouldn't bet the winning factor in the battle against the Yaman on these 5 dangerous people. These 5 people might help the human race win, but they might also help the Yao race win. Their existence was two-sided. The human race wouldn't allow any uncertain factors to determine the outcome of the battle. As long as these 5 people were killed, neither the human race nor the Yaman would have to worry about them interfering. The human race was even more confident that they could defeat the Yaman with their racial advantage. Song Wanzi's gaze became extremely sharp. He knew what he had to do. Why aren't you fighting back? Qiao Shui asked. The sky full of icicles turned into an ice dragon. The majestic ice dragon caused the surrounding temperature to drop by a few degrees. Everyone felt a bone-chilling cold. Don't use Water Yuming's ability. Mu Yu dodged to the left. He tapped the tip of his foot on the dragon's head and quickly approached Qiao Shui. When he arrived behind Qiao Shui, he whispered in her ear, "But I still have to thank your water spirit. It really did bring me a lot of good luck." Qiao Shui's body trembled. She turned her head to look at Mu Yu. Even if her appearance had changed, that pair of mischievous eyes would never change. Mu Yu, who was always smiling mischievously, seemed so real in her eyes. That voice, that expression, that teasing tone, it was just a change of face, but the one thing that remained unchanged was the same person. Qiao Shui shook her head. She really wanted to believe that this was Mu Yu. However, Mu Yu was still in the 2nd layer of heaven. This wasn't Mu Yu. There was no news from the human race that Mu Yu had escaped from the 2nd layer of heaven. How could he have come out without a teleportation array? How do you know all this? Qiao Shui clenched her fist. The mist in the sky condensed into an ice sword. She pulled it out and swung it at Mu Yu. She ignored the cries of the other cultivators. She only wanted to clarify everything. Mu Yu's Mu Ling met the attack. The 2 swords intertwined and produced a loud clashing sound. Qiao Shui and Mu Yu faced each other. Time seemed to have frozen at that moment. The 2 of them didn't make a move. In my dream, you said that you liked me. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Qiao Shui's mind was filled with Mu Yu's half-true, half-false joke. Why did the man in front of her give her such a familiar feeling? Who was he? I've always wanted to tell you that the 2 of us are actually the same. Mu Yu said calmly. His words were so simple that Qiao Shui couldn't understand it. Qiao Shui looked at Mu Yu quietly. Her vision blurred for a moment. In that instant, She seemed to have seen Mu Yu's face. However, when she focused her eyes, the man in front of her was still an unfamiliar face. Xiao Shui waved her ice sword. The two of them retreated and stabilized themselves in the distance. They floated in midair. World of ice. Xiao Shui spread her hands. The ice sword turned back into mist. At the same time, a roaring sound came from the 8-grass village. The well water in the 8-grass village was swept up like a silver waterfall. The huge silver waterfall swept over. Everyone looked at this scene in horror. If this water curtain fell, it would definitely cause a huge impact. Perhaps the 8-grass village would cease to exist. However, the silver waterfall only formed a water curtain that covered the sky. It wrapped around Mu Yu and Xiao Shui. A huge water ball appeared in midair. Along with creaking sounds, the water ball gradually froze. A thick ice wall wrapped around the two of them. Everyone could only see blurry figures. They couldn't tell who was who. Is this Yumon's power? Many cultivators swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Not everyone had seen Yumon's true strength. Ever since Sword Shadow and Dust Wind trapped Yumon in the Mayan mountain range many years ago, Yumon's shadow had disappeared from the 3 continents. Even though it was recently known that Yumon had escaped from the Mayan mountain range, not everyone had seen Yumon with their own eyes. Yumon's power was very terrifying. In the face of the majestic power of the 5 elements, it was very difficult for humans to resist the world's most basic and purest power of nature. Song Wanzi suddenly reached out to grab the ice ball. He wanted to kill Xiao Shui. He couldn't allow such an unforeseen event like Xiao Shui to exist in this world. However, White Ape Demon King was faster. In a flash, he waved his hand and forced Song Wanzi to retreat. A domineering aura poured out unreservedly, suppressing all the cultivators present. White Ape Demon King's monstrous aura soared to the sky. Just by standing there, he seemed to be a world of his own. He was wild and unruly. No one dared to approach him for fear of being torn apart. This is a battle between the younger generation. Why are you, an old man, blindly meddling in it? You'd better watch the show from the sidelines. Otherwise, I'll tear your old bones apart. White Ape Demon King looked at Song Wanzi mockingly. His voice was like rolling thunder, shaking everyone's mind. Only now did these cultivators understand why White Ape Demon King could walk out of the Pill Cauldron School so calmly. With such a terrifying aura, perhaps even Song Wanzi and the other 2 old seniors were no match for White Ape Demon King. White Ape Demon King didn't even bother to show his cultivation before. He was already quite good-tempered when he only killed people from the Gate of Hell and the Gate of Life and Death in the Pill Cauldron School. Song Wanzi took a step back and abruptly stopped himself. The White Ape Demon King had already shown mercy in that attack. Song Wanzi knew that he had underestimated the White Ape Demon King, but he couldn't back down when it came to Xiao Shui. Song Wanzi angrily rebuked. White Ape Demon King, you could be arrogant and despotic, but you have to be reasonable. Her ability is no longer something that can be mastered by humans. She's not an ordinary human, but Shui Yumeng. I don't know how she turned into a human, but you demons have always been on our side when it comes to Shui Yumeng. How dare you tolerate Shui Yumeng this time? You're too bold. You know best whether she's a human or not. Her ability is more powerful than Shui Yumeng's. If Shui Yumeng comes to attack, she can resist Shui Yumeng more than thousands of humans. You humans are too arrogant to tolerate her, but we demons can tolerate her. White Ape Demon King didn't back down. Xiao Shui saved him from the 2nd layer heaven, so he wouldn't allow anyone to hurt her. On the other hand, if she wreaks havoc in the human world, the disaster she will cause will be even greater than Shui Yumeng, right? Song Wanzi was furious, but he couldn't do anything in the face of White Ape Demon King's tyranny. In fact, his worries weren't unreasonable. He didn't know why there was such a combination of humans and Yumon in the world, but if Xiao Shui couldn't control herself one day and stood on the opposite side of the human race, she would be a disaster. Because Xiao Shui was familiar with all the culture and cultivation foundation of the human race, she knew how to deal with them. White Ape Demon King disdainfully said, Although we demons hate you humans, our hatred for Shui Yumeng is no less than yours. If she helps Shui Yumeng wreak havoc, do you think it's up to you to punish her? We naturally have our own plans. You just need to take care of the things at hand first. No self-cultivators could interrupt the conversation between the two peak powerhouses outside, so they could only watch in bewilderment. Xiao Shui and Muyu didn't hear anything either. The ice ball was very good at isolating the sound from the outside world. Xiao Shui had trapped herself in Muyu, so even someone like White Ape couldn't see what was going on inside. Xiao Shui, we meet again. Muyu had removed his disguise and appeared in front of Xiao Shui with his real face. He knew that no one would be able to see anything inside the ice ball, so he had nothing to worry about. Xiao Shui stared at Muyu, her heart surging with emotions. The person she had missed for so long suddenly appeared in front of her. It felt like a dream. After a long while, she said in a trembling voice, "It's really you." "Yes, it's me." Muyu scratched the back of his head and smiled embarrassedly. Xiao Shui's heart surged. She couldn't say the many lines she had rehearsed. She just stared blankly at the young man she had been longing for day and night. She wanted to tell him that she didn't like him. She wanted to tell Muyu that she only missed him because he helped the demon race. She wanted to let Muyu know that she wasn't worried about him. Chapter 280. Are you alright? That's right. Thousands of words were condensed into a single sentence. It was a simple sentence, but it contained a lot of complicated emotions. Xiao Shui imagined herself meeting Muyu again. She wanted to act aloof and reject this man who was teasing her. She was the princess of the devil race. She disdained to put down her airs in front of a human. However, when Muyu really stood in front of her, she was like a lost girl. Her eyes were filled with tears. She never understood why Muyu wanted to save her. When Muyu said those words, her heart seemed to have been stolen. Why did this fellow in front of him say those inexplicable words back then? Muyu didn't know about Xiao Shui's feelings. He didn't have any complicated feelings for her. The only person he truly liked was Tianran. He didn't expect that his words would cause another girl to worry about him for a year. What's wrong? Why are you crying? Muyu looked at Xiao Shui in confusion. He was most afraid of a girl crying in front of him. It gave him the feeling that he had done something wrong. So when Xiao Shui cried, he felt a little uncomfortable. He would rather fight 10 rank 4 demonic beasts than face a crying girl. He didn't know how worried Xiao Shui was for him. She even went to beg the Devil Race Patriarch to reopen the teleportation array. However, Muyu helped Xiao Shui because she could control water. It was the same as his ability to control wood. He didn't want Xiao Shui to be captured by the people from the Gate of Hell. However, Xiao Shui didn't know that. She likes you. Do you like her too? Xiao Shui asked with a trembling voice. Who? Are you talking about Tianran? Muyu thought of Tianran's innocent smile, and his heart softened. When Tianran said that she liked him in front of so many people, he knew that he was destined to protect that silly girl for the rest of his life. Muyu nodded. He didn't think that it was a big deal to admit it in front of Xiao Shui. After all, Xiao Shui and Tianran didn't have any interactions, and he didn't have any relationship with Xiao Shui. Well, I like Tianran too. She's a very kind girl, and I don't want to disappoint her. Muyu smiled. When Tianran said that she liked him, he felt that the sky had never been so blue before. However, Muyu didn't know that he had unintentionally broken another girl's heart. Xiao Shui's body trembled as her heart felt empty. So, the person he liked was Tianran. That's right. She was a member of the Yao clan, and he was standing on the side of the humans. Why would he like her? She had never said that she liked him, had she? But why did it feel like his nod was tearing her heart apart? Why did her heart hurt so much? As if she had been drained of all her strength, Xiao Shui pursed her lips. Then why did you help me in the second layer of heaven? Muyu smiled. His smile was very bright and made people feel warm, because you can control water, and I can control wood. My master said that there are 5 people in this world that can control Yu Meng's power. The 5 of us have to help each other, and I've always wanted to let you know about this. A seed in Mu Yu's hand sprouted, and in the blink of an eye, it grew into a red flower. It was so bright and fragrant, but in Xiao Shue's eyes, it was very dazzling. So, he helped me because of this. Xiao Shui suddenly felt that it was very funny. She looked at the flower in a daze. She didn't care who could control what, and she didn't care why Muyu could control what while she could control water. She only knew that she had been thinking too much. He had only helped her because of her ability. She should have thought of this earlier. You've never liked me, have you? Xiao Shui bit her lips as she recalled what Muyu had said to her. You like me in your dreams. Even in my dreams? She asked absent-mindedly. In my dreams? Muyu's heart trembled. In the dream that Phantom had created for him, Xiao Shui had asked him this question. At that time, Muyu had always thought that it was just a dream, so when he left the dream and met Xiao Shui again, he had casually teased her with this question. But today, Xiao Shui had brought it up herself. He had already seen through the clues. Xiao Shui actually liked him. But why? He hadn't had much interaction with her. Why would she like him? Muyu thought of the dream that Phantom had given him. In the dream, Xiao Shui liked him, but he liked Tianran. Who would have thought that all of this would become reality? Wasn't that just a dream? But Xiao Shui liked him both in the dream and in reality? Muyu didn't dare to look at Xiao Shui's eyes again. He didn't know that things would turn out like this. When Xiao Shui said that she liked him, Muyu felt a little flustered. This wasn't the kind of joy he felt when he heard Tianran say that she liked Muyu, but a genuine fluster. He liked Tianran, but he didn't have that kind of feeling for Xiao Shui. He just wanted to help her. At this moment, he didn't say anything else. He was afraid that he would say something wrong and hurt Xiao Shui again. It was just like how Miao Yuyan had chosen between Dead Tree and Feng Haochen, causing Dead Tree to be depressed for so many years. Xiao Shui, listen to my explanation. Muyu said in a panic. He felt that he had to let Xiao Shui understand his feelings. Okay, what do you want to explain? Xiao Shui looked at Muyu. She didn't know why she suddenly became so calm. Perhaps this wasn't her at all. She was just fooled by Muyu's words. She didn't even care how Muyu got out of the second layer of heaven. Muyu's heart sank. That's right. What did he want to explain? What did he have to explain? Could he tell Xiao Shui that everything was a misunderstanding? But Xiao Shui had already realized it. Why should he do that? I'm sorry. Muyu squeezed out these 3 words after a long time. He had experienced so many dangers and had so many people teaching him how to deal with enemies. However, no one taught him how to treat feelings. He was like a papaya as he said the most powerless words. You also let me feel at ease. Now that I know that you're fine, I don't have to worry anymore. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. You're from a human race, and I'm from the demon race. The victor between us hasn't been decided yet. You have to be careful. The tears at the corner of Xiao Shui's eyes had already turned into ice shards and fell down. All the excess emotions had been put away. She expressionlessly looked at Muyu with a complicated gaze. No one knew what she was thinking at this moment, but she suddenly attacked Muyu. Perhaps it was because she was angry at Muyu's deceit, or perhaps it was because she was jealous of Tianran, but she attacked Muyu without any mercy. An ice-cold sword formed in her hand. It flickered with a frightening cold light as it pierced towards Muyu. Xiao Shui's sword pierced Muyu's chest without any obstruction. Muyu didn't even have to move his hand before he was stabbed. The blood that flowed out was immediately frozen. Why? Xiao Shui was stunned. Why didn't he dodge? Why did he have to receive this sword? Why did her heart hurt so much even though the sword had clearly pierced his body? Muyu lowered his head and looked at the ice sword. It had pierced his heart. Even if he had limitless life force, he couldn't survive here because there were no plants here. No plants could provide him with life force. He wanted to use the plants, but the life force of the plants came from him. How could he use it to heal himself? I didn't know if I should dodge or not, so I didn't dodge. I thought that since we're the same kind of people, you wouldn't kill me. Muyu frowned. He thought that Xiao Shui would stop at the critical moment, but she didn't. She was muddled by some emotions and didn't have time to stop. Xiao Shui's ice sword had already disappeared. She looked at Muyu in a daze. She wanted to do something, but she didn't know what to do. Should she save him? If he died, what would happen to her heart? She had been looking forward to it for so long, but when she finally saw him, she had stabbed her sword into his chest. She instantly regretted it. That sword had injured him, but it had also injured her. Muyu looked at the wound on his chest. It was only a sword wound where his blood had frozen, but the cold sword chi had already invaded his body. His face became very pale, and the cold sweat that flowed out had already frozen into ice shards. His life force was gradually dissipating. Was he going to die? Then what about Tian Ran? He didn't even have time to confess to Tian Ran. What about his master? He was still in prison. No, he couldn't die yet. He had to live on. But how could he come into contact with the plants in the outside world? Without plants, he would die. He had to break through this ice ball. Plants, I need plants. Muyu clenched his teeth. He had to live on. Muyu, what are you doing? Little Shuai popped his head out from Muyu's chest. That sword had pierced through his tail and almost pierced him. The moment he came out, he realized that something was wrong. The surroundings were covered in ice and snow, causing Muyu's body temperature to drop. That sword entered his heart. My God, this isn't good. Little Shuai saw Muyu's injury and quickly flew out. He glared at Xiao Shui, and then his furry tail began to shake. The spiritual energy in his body began to gather towards his tail, and then slowly merged into Muyu's wound. Hey, you two are alone in a room. Can't you take it easy? Little Shuai pouted. He cursed and shouted, Broken sword, come out and save me. Muling's sword seemed to have heard Little Shuai's call, or perhaps it felt that something was wrong with Muyu's body, and suddenly flashed out. A gentle green light enveloped Muyu's body, and a steady stream of vitality flowed into Muyu's body. Little Shuai took out a level 6 pill from Muyu's heaven and earth sleeve. This pill was extorted from the old man. If Muyu wanted to live, he had to break through to the out-of-body stage. The moment he broke through, he would have to use the boundless vitality to heal his injury. This pill finally worked. Xiao Shui looked at Muyu. Guilt, regret, and self-blame flooded her heart. She wanted to help, but she knew that she couldn't. She could only stand aside and stare blankly at Muyu. She stared at the person she had missed for a year. If he died, then she wouldn't live anymore. Chapter 281. 2 hours passed, but there was still no movement from the huge ice ball. The ice ball had isolated all the energy inside, so no one knew who had won or lost. The self-cultivators below the stage were restless and worried for Lan Feng. After all, the demon race had sent out a girl with the ability of Water Yaman. Yaman's ability was very powerful, and many self-cultivators couldn't deal with Yaman alone. Not only were the self-cultivators anxious, but even the White Ape Demon King was anxious. If they waited any longer, the human race would bring reinforcements. He came to provoke the human race because he wanted to take advantage of the fact that the human race was unprepared. At the same time, he wanted to set up the impression that the demon race was invincible, so that self-cultivators would be afraid of the demon race. If the human race really did bring powerful reinforcements, then the demon race would have to put in a lot of effort to win. Although they were all at the 9th layer, the White Ape Demon King believed that the demon race he brought was stronger. However, he still couldn't underestimate the human race. If there were any side issues, then today would be his downfall. The two of them still haven't decided a winner. So let's move on to the next round. The White Ape Demon King shouted to the human race. He didn't want to delay any longer, so he had to determine the winner. Everyone was worried about Muyu, but Song Wanzi wasn't worried at all. In his opinion, the longer this competition dragged on, the better it would be for the human race. Perhaps at this moment, there were already a lot of young people at the 9th layer of out-of-body stage on the way. As long as Muyu delayed for a while, then the human race would have a better chance of winning this competition. Song Wanzi smiled faintly. Demon King, why are you in such a hurry? A competition always takes time to decide a winner. Could it be that you don't have confidence in your own race? The White Ape Demon King snorted. Are you humans afraid? He had already sent out a 9th layer out-of-body stage demon to challenge the human race. The aura of a 9th layer out-of-body stage cultivator provoked all the self-cultivators. Some people were angry, but most people just ignored it. The White Ape Demon King was obviously trying to provoke the human race. If they were really provoked and sent out an out-of-body stage cultivator, then they would fall into the opponent's trap. What's there to be afraid of? It's just that if there's an accident and the outcome can't be determined, wouldn't it affect the progress of the other competition? Song didn't send anyone to fight, and he couldn't send anyone either. None of the out-of-body stage cultivators present could defeat the Yao clan. Any one of them would definitely lose. If there was no competition on the field and the human race was still dragging their feet, then perhaps the human race's momentum was really weak. But now that there were people competing on the field, there was nothing wrong with not letting them go up. When White Ape saw that Song Wanzi didn't send anyone to fight, he was quite annoyed. But at this time, he couldn't find anything to use against Song Wanzi. He could only anxiously look at the ice ball and pray that Xiao Shui would end the battle quickly. Even if she lost, she couldn't drag it on any longer. Just when the Yao clan was getting impatient and the human clan was looking forward to delaying for a little longer, a clear and audible cracking sound suddenly entered the ears of everyone present. Everyone glanced at the ice ball. Unknowingly, a crack had appeared on the ice ball. An aura that did not belong to the nascent soul stage was emitted from the ice ball. Everyone looked at the ice ball in surprise. The two people competing on it were clearly nascent soul stage cultivators. Why would there be such an aura? Song Wanzi was also a little surprised. He stared at the ice ball and didn't know what he was thinking. Ever since Mu Yu entered the field, for some reason, Taoist Yuanhua's eyes never left Mu Yu. He saw some clues but didn't say anything. Boom! With a loud bang, the ice ball suddenly exploded, scattering ice shards all over the sky and splashing in all directions. Everyone used their qi to resist, but at the same time, they retreated a bit for fear of being affected. After the smoke and dust settled, everyone looked back at the center of the explosion. There were two people standing there, looking at each other. One was a 9th heavenly layer nascent soul stage cultivator, Xiao Shui. The other was an out-of-body stage cultivator, Lan Feng, who had already won 2 victories for the human race. What's going on? How can he be an out-of-body stage cultivator? Everyone was stunned. The human was clearly a 9th heavenly layer nascent soul stage cultivator. How did he become an out-of-body stage cultivator in the blink of an eye? Could it be that in the 2 hours just now, the young man named Lan Feng broke through the nascent soul stage and became an out-of-body stage cultivator? Isn't this too inconceivable? Song Wanzi looked at Mu Yu in amazement. His eyes were full of disbelief. Who would have thought that the young man who defeated 2 demon race cultivators will be able to break through to out-of-body stage in this battle? He really is a rare talent. Taoist Yuanhua nodded thoughtfully. He gently rotated his walking stick, which emitted an imperceptible fluctuation. A dark green bead was inlaid on top of it. If someone looked carefully at the center of the bead, they would be surprised to find the image of Lan Feng in the center of the bead. This was Mu Yu's appearance after changing his appearance. It was unknown why it appeared in Taoist Yuanhua's bead. Thank you. Mu Yu had already changed back to his previous appearance. He knew that in the 2 hours he was in the process of breaking through, Xiao Shui could have killed him at any time. But she just quietly watched him recover from his injuries. She didn't do anything, nor did she remove the ice ball. She just waited for him. Afterwards, Mu Yu broke through to out-of-body stage with the help of Xiao Shui and Mu Ling's sword. If not for Xiao Shui's help, it would have taken him a long time to break through to out-of-body stage. We're even. I lost this match. Xiao Shui's voice was clearly transmitted to every cultivator's ears. She looked at the young man and sorted out her complicated emotions. Her heart was still filled with all kinds of strange emotions. After she finished speaking, she rushed towards Demon King White Ape. Lan Feng won another match for the human race? The crowd suddenly burst into cheers. Lan Feng alone fought against 3 original infant stage cultivators. Not only did he win, but he also took the opportunity to break through to out-of-body stage. This kind of talent was unprecedented. He was worthy of being called the leader of the younger generation. But many busybodies began to inquire about the identity of this unknown Lan Feng. If he has such high talent, Why have they never heard of him before? Which big sect is Lan Feng from? He's so young, and his cultivation is so high. It's impossible for him to be unknown. I don't know. Maybe he's a rare genius from a big sect. Che, the big sects are too busy showing off their talented disciples. How could they hide them? All the self-cultivators were whispering to each other. Everyone was asking each other questions, trying to find out the background of Lan Feng. But what made them feel strange was that no one had ever heard of who Lan Feng was. No one had ever seen him before. It was as if this person had appeared out of thin air. If they knew that Lan Feng was Mu Yu, maybe they wouldn't have such a headache. Song Wanzi nodded, affirming that this young man, named Lan Feng, was able to win back the face of the human race at this critical moment. It could be considered a great achievement. There were a total of 5 original infant stage matches. The first match was against Yang Li, a disciple of Xianling's sect, who lost miserably. The second match was against Tian Ran of Red Dust sect, who relied on her skills to win. The remaining 3 matches were won by this unknown Lan Feng. This greatly suppressed the arrogance of the demon race and made all the cultivators feel elated. Mu Yu looked at Xiao Shue's back and sighed in his heart. He was still floating in the same place, motionless. His mind was full of thoughts. At this moment, he didn't know what to say. There were some misunderstandings between him and Xiao Shui. Although the misunderstanding was resolved, Xiao Shue's situation was not good. White Ape Demon King saw Xiao Shue's dazed appearance and hurriedly asked what happened. But Xiao Shui only spat out, "I lost," and then turned her face to a place where others couldn't see. Tears had already blurred her eyes, but she didn't want others to see that her eyes had become crystal clear. Since childhood, this was the first time she fell in love with someone, but that person didn't like her at all. Long Xingyun has always liked Xiao Shui for a long time. Seeing Xiao Shue's body slightly twitching, he walked over and patted Xiao Shue's shoulder, comforting her. "It's just a loss. Don't worry, I'll go on stage and teach the rest of the human race a lesson for you." Xiao Shui was silent. Long Xingyun thought that she was sad because she lost a match, but how could a small match compare to the heartbreak of a girl who had just fallen in love? Since you humans won by luck, then let's move on to the last out-of-body stage match, right? White Ape Demon King looked at Xiao Shui meaningfully and didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he began to shout loudly to attract the attention of all the self-cultivators. The nascent soul stage matches were already over, and the demon race only won 1 match. Originally, it was a good opportunity to provoke the human race, but it was abruptly ruined by Lan Feng's sudden appearance. White Ape Demon King was quite angry. However, they already won 1 out-of-body stage match. He knew that the human race wouldn't send out an out-of-body stage cultivator to fight. So the most important thing now was to win the remaining 4 matches. When White Ape Demon King sent out another out-of-body stage demon, the crowd suddenly quieted down. The real headache came again. The human race's reinforcements still hadn't arrived, and the out-of-body stage cultivators present were no match for them. Just now, they had an excuse to stall for time, but now what? Mu Yu still stood in the middle of the field, quietly watching the demon race. Feeling his cultivation at the first layer of out-of-body stage, he felt as if his entire body was filled with energy and he couldn't wait to vent it. "Brat, what are you still doing here? Are you looking for death?" The demon race sent out a rhinoceros at the 9th layer of out-of-body stage. The rhinoceros had an ugly appearance, and a large horn grew from its nose. It was obvious that it hadn't fully transformed into human form, but its strength at the 9th layer of out-of-body stage made people's hearts sink. This guy's skin was rough and thick, and his skin was the best defense. Ordinary magical weapons wouldn't be able to leave a mark on his body. Mu Yu swept his eyes over the crowd. The human experts still hadn't arrived, and the strength of the people below was simply not enough to contend with this rhinoceros. He hesitated for a moment, and then slowly said, "Your opponent is me." As soon as Mu Yu's voice fell, the crowd went into an uproar. What? Lan Feng, at the first layer of out-of-body stage, actually dared to challenge a 9th layer out-of-body stage rhinoceros? Was he crazy? Although everyone recognized Lan Feng's superb talent, no one believed that a youngster who had just stepped into out-of-body stage would be able to contend with a ninth-layer out-of-body stage rhinoceros. The difference between the first layer of out-of-body stage and the ninth layer of out-of-body stage was like heaven and earth. Lan Feng, don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Hurry up and come down. You've already done very well today. Leave the rest to others. Song Wanzi was worried for Lan Feng. Although the demon race only knocked people unconscious and didn't kill them, with Lan Feng's heaven-defying talent, once they fought, the rhinoceros would definitely not be merciful. The difference in strength between the two was too great. If there were any hidden dangers, then Lan Feng's future would be ruined. Muyu shook his head. He knew that if it were anyone else now, they wouldn't necessarily have a better chance of winning. He still had the sword intent of the nameless swordsman. Only now did he understand how strong that sword intent was. When he was at the nascent soul stage, he couldn't display the sword intent strength, but now he was stronger than before. How do you know if you don't try? Muyu's eyes exploded with a strong desire to fight. So what if there was a great disparity in strength? Muyu wanted to know how big the gap was between him and his opponent. If he didn't even dare to try, then how could he face the third-layer palace in Yaman in the future? Brat, if you want to die, then don't blame me. Although I won't kill you, I will cripple you. The rhinoceros demon roared. His clumsy body ran on the ground, causing the earth to tremble. Then, he stomped on the ground, creating a huge crater. His body was like a small mountain as he rushed towards Muyu. Stop! Song Wanzi wanted to rush forward and drag Muyu down, but the white ape demon king once again blocked his path. You've always wanted to interfere with the competition between the younger generation. What is your intention? The white ape demon king saw that Muyu was ready to fight. He had already secretly ordered the rhinoceros to heavily injure Muyu. He must injure Muyu's cultivation foundation so that his cultivation can no longer progress. For the human race to have such a talented youth, he must not be allowed to grow smoothly. Otherwise, he may become a great obstacle to the demon race in the future. You're shameless. Song Wanzi was furious. He wanted to fight the white ape, but Yuan Hua stopped him. Let's wait and see how the battle goes. Yuan Hua knew that the competition had already begun. If he stopped it now, then the demon race would have another excuse to cause trouble. But Yuan Hua interrupted Song Wanzi before he could finish. I feel that this Lan Feng is not so simple. No one noticed that the green pearl on Yuan Hua's walking stick began to slowly change. The pearl no longer showed the image of Lan Feng, but Mu Yu's real appearance. Chapter 282. Mu Yu leaped to pull away from the rhinoceros demon. His flying sword had already slashed across the rhinoceros demon's back, but the rhinoceros demon completely ignored his attack. The flying sword only left a white mark on the rhinoceros demon's back, causing no damage at all. Mu Yu frowned as he stepped on the rhinoceros demon's arm with the tip of his foot, pulling away once again. The strength of the rhinoceros demon's defense was beyond his imagination. Its strength was also completely superior to the black bear demon's. There was no chance of winning in a head-on clash. In the blink of an eye, Mu Yu's flying sword had already stabbed the rhinoceros demon's body more than 100 times. However, the rhinoceros demon's skin was unimaginably thick. Mu Yu did not leave a single mark on it. Instead, his arm was numbed by the recoil. Thankfully, the rhinoceros demon's heavy body determined that its speed was not very fast. Mu Yu's footsteps were also very light. He was always able to pull away from the rhinoceros demon in time and take evasive measures. Are you very good at running? The rhinoceros demon roared. He landed on the ground and blasted a deep pit. Then, he waved his hands in front of his chest. As he waved his hands, a powerful spiritual energy formed in front of him. The spiritual energy instantly enveloped Mu Yu. Mu Yu was alarmed. He felt as though his body was instantly bound by a heavy object. He did not understand why he could not dodge this spiritual energy. It seemed to appear out of thin air and forcefully stuck to his body. His body suddenly fell to the ground, as if there was an invisible force pulling him, and he didn't even have the space to resist. The moment he landed, he turned around with great difficulty. The sword in his hand stabbed deeply into the ground before he barely stopped his body. However, his legs seemed to be filled with lead, making it difficult for him to move. This rhinoceros demon actually had such a strange ability to bind his opponent's body with a heavy object out of thin air. If one's cultivation level did not exceed his, it was impossible to break free from this spiritual energy. Clearly, Muyu was unable to break free. You can't move, right? That's easy to say. The rhinoceros demon smiled smugly. His legs suddenly kicked back, sending dust and rocks flying. He once again pounced at Muyu. He didn't transform into his true form, but the damage he caused was already terrifying. If he revealed his true form, it would be even more terrifying. Muyu was in an extremely dangerous situation. He could only watch helplessly as the huge body crashed into him. If he was hit, he would definitely lose his life. "Little handsome, help me," Muyu whispered. This spiritual power was formed from the surrounding spiritual energy. As long as it was spiritual energy, Xiao Shuai would have a way to deal with it. Xiao Shuai stuck out his tail and said in distress, "This spiritual energy has been gathered into a heavy binding force by the other party. It's like a stone that will fall back down after being hit by gravity. That single horn bull has turned the spiritual energy into gravity. I might not be able to resolve it. Not even 10 drumsticks can resolve it? Damn it. For the sake of 10 drumsticks, this handsome will do it." As Xiao Shuai's tail wagged violently, Muyu's body felt lighter. He immediately kicked his feet into the air. He dodged the rhino's attack in the nick of time. The rhinoceros demon's huge body created a huge crater where he was standing. If he didn't escape in time, who knew what would have happened? The rhinoceros demon didn't expect Muyu to break free from his binding. He roared angrily and immediately charged at Muyu. His entire body turned into a shadow. One could only see the unstoppable rhinoceros horn flashing with a sharp light as it pierced towards Muyu. Sweeping the moon with the falling wind. The sixth move of the falling dust sword art, sweeping the moon with the falling wind. When the sword rose, the wind would surge and the moon would fall from the sky. The shadow clone sword rapidly rolled up a torrent in front of his chest. The torrent turned into a full moon. The full moon spun, displaying the waxing and waning of the moon. It flowed with white moonlight. Subtle mystic patterns covered the entire full moon. It was like the most solid shield, welcoming the tyrannical rhinoceros horn. Bang! Muyu felt a sharp pain in his chest. The sharp rhinoceros horn had already collided with the shadow clone sword. If not for the fact that the shadow clone sword was incomparably tough and intelligent, helping Muyu to absorb a large portion of the impact, Muyu would have been pierced through. However, Muyu didn't have it easy either. His entire body flew out like a kite with a broken string. He crashed heavily onto the ground, causing the ground to crack. You can't even withstand a single blow. The rhinoceros demon laughed loudly. When he saw Muyu disappear into a cloud of dust, he immediately became arrogant. He then looked at the humans and asked, "Who else wants to give it a try?" The crowd fell silent. The rhinoceros demon's cultivation was truly frightening. Even a human at the ninth heaven of out-of-aperture realm might not fare much better than Muyu. The out-of-body stage, cultivators present all asked themselves if they were in Muyu's shoes, they would have been more seriously injured. What's the hurry? We haven't finished fighting yet. After the dust settled, Muyu's body gradually appeared in front of everyone. He coughed forcefully and spat out the blood in his mouth. Then he supported himself with the sword in his hand and stood up strenuously. His clothes were dirty and messy at the moment, and there were scratches on his face. However, he didn't retreat. He had been careless in this collision. He had underestimated the rhinoceros demon's strength. Even a ninth heaven of out-of-aperture realm cultivator wouldn't dare to take the rhinoceros demon's all-out attack head-on. It was already a miracle that he didn't die. The rhinoceros demon looked at Muyu. He was a little puzzled. His rhinoceros horn was invincible. Why didn't it pierce a hole in Muyu's body? Instead, it didn't break the seemingly fragile shadow clone sword. However, he didn't think too much about it. He only thought that Jiang Yi was lucky. He smiled contemptuously and said, "Do you still have the ability to fight with me?" Mu Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slightly adjusted his internal breath. Then, he pulled the shadow clone sword out of the ground. Just now, it was Mu Ling in the shadow clone sword that used its strange aura to protect his body and save his life. "Thank you for your unlikable sword." Mu Yu flicked the shadow clone sword lightly. Mu Ling had been hiding in the shadow clone sword all this time. Although he didn't like Mu Ling had saved him from danger time and time again, not to mention bringing him out of the second heaven. Mu Ling's sword trembled slightly, as if it was responding to Mu Yu. A pleasant feeling was transmitted to Mu Yu. Mu Yu smiled slightly. Holding the sword in his right hand, he pointed at the rhinoceros demon and said slowly, "Let me see if your skin is thick. Who in the world has thicker skin than me?" The rhinoceros demon said proudly. Mu Yu was speechless. The rhinoceros demon's skin had become his pride. This was really strange. "That's not necessarily true. Your skin will never be as thick as Little Handsome's." Mu Yu smiled. Little Handsome was not even afraid of being struck by lightning. Handsome would always be its catchphrase, and narcissism would always be its synonym. That was the real thick skin. Mu Yu jumped into the air. The sword intent in his right hand began to surge. A domineering and arrogant sword chi spread out with him as the center. Mu Yu only realized how strong this person was when the broken sword left him the sword intent. Even though Mu Yu had now reached the out-of-body realm, he felt that he had not yet exerted the true power of the sword intent. It was impossible for the sword intent to exist forever. It would disappear one day. However, with Mu Yu's cultivation during the Jindan period and the nascent soul realm, it was impossible for him to exhaust the sword intent. No wonder the broken sword told him that there was no limit to the number of times Mu Yu could use it. It was impossible for him to exert the full power of the sword intent during the Jindan period and the nascent soul realm, even when he reached the out-of-body realm. However, even if Mu Yu could not exert the full power of the sword intent, it was many times stronger than his cultivation at this moment. The surging sword chi wrapped Mu Ling. Mu Ling's body emitted a faint green light. There was a manic force tearing at Mu Yu's arm, as if it wanted to tear Mu Yu's arm apart. The higher his cultivation, the more powerful the sword intent would be, and the stronger the side effects would be. After all, the sword intent did not belong to him. Once the full power was exerted, Mu Yu estimated that his arm would be completely torn to ashes. Mu Yu took a deep breath. The sword intent in his hand became stronger and stronger. He shouted and moved to one side, thrusting out his sword. The green light was so bright that it was as if the faint Mu Ling was the only thing left in the world. Mu Yu's body had been submerged in the green light. A sword shadow that was hundreds of feet long appeared in the air. With a destructive momentum, it shrouded the rhinoceros monster. The rhinoceros monster had already turned into his original form. He knew that this sword was no small matter, so he did not dare to be careless. A rhinoceros as big as a mountain appeared in the air. The sharp and thick rhinoceros horn was like a long spear, facing the sword shadow. Boom! The earth quaked, and the mountain swayed. Green light overflowed in all directions, and the air was mixed with violent fluctuations. It overturned those with weak cultivation. Many people did not dare to look directly at the terrifying collision. Huge rocks swirled in the air, destroying many farmhouses. Everywhere was a mess, as if a hurricane had passed through. "Is that all?" The rhinoceros monster's insufferably arrogant voice rang in everyone's heart like a dull bell. Such a domineering sword was still unable to hurt the rhinoceros monster. Was the difference in strength really too great? Mu Yu, Xiao Shui almost shouted. She knew the rhinoceros monster's strength. The difference in strength between them was too great. How come you feel good? I've already cleared the debt with you. Why am I still so worried about you? Xiao Shui's heart was empty. She did not know why she was like this. Even though she had made things clear, she still could not let it go. Mu and the rhinoceros monster's figures appeared in front of everyone again. Mu right hand hung down and trembled slightly. He could no longer lift his sword. This sword strike had consumed all of his spiritual power. The overbearing aspect of sword intent was that it could harm others as well as oneself. Since the strike had failed, the bones in Mu's right hand had cracked inch by inch. Even the wood spirit could no longer protect his arm. Aside from his clothes being torn, the rhinoceros monster's body was still intact. His defense could not be damaged by such a domineering sword intent. Mu lost. This thought appeared in everyone's mind. Mu's cultivation was not as good as the rhinoceros monster's, so it was understandable that he lost. However, that surging sword intent had clearly exceeded Mu's strength. Such a destructive sword attack still could not cut through the rhinoceros monster's skin. Did humans still have any hope of winning? Everyone looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. Mu's sword attack was something that even a cultivator at the 5th level of out-of-body realm would not dare to take lightly. If they could not withstand Mu's attack, how could they fight against the rhinoceros monster? If they went up, it would be a joke. Chapter 283. Mu not only possessed the supreme heavenly sword 9 guides of Jian Ying and Shun Feng, but also learned the poison techniques of Deadwood Chongqing. His attainment in poisons was quite high, so he naturally knew how to use them. 3 years ago, in the Deadwood Valley, Mu had just been caught by Deadwood Chongqing. Mu was forced to memorize the poison scripture and recognize all kinds of poisons. Many things about poisons appeared clearly in his mind. Green-haired old man, what is bone-dissolving powder? Mu looked at a bottle and shook it curiously. He opened the bottle cap and wanted to pour it on his hand to take a look. Touch, you, your finger will be gone. Deadwood hit Mu's hand with a stick. Who are you trying to fool? Mu stretched his hand back in pain. Specially cure skin, thick-skinned demon beasts, right? Specially cured demon beasts. Why don't you cure your stuttering? Wait a minute, don't. Mu stared angrily at the green-haired old man. He just wanted to make a joke, but he ended up hanging upside down from the ceiling again. Mu's mind appeared the conversation with Deadwood in the valley's tree hole, and his heart warmed. That old guy who always liked to hang him up should be okay now, right? His thoughts slowly returned to reality, and the empty bottle in his hand emitted a special smell. The rhinoceros demon looked at Mu arrogantly. He could see that after Mu used that incomparably powerful sword intent, the spiritual power in his body was almost exhausted. At this moment, he was like a crossbow bow. If he continued to fight, he would definitely be trampled under his feet. Ha! Let's see how you can fight with me? Do you really think you can beat me? You are too naive. The rhinoceros demon laughed. Mu was not angry. He just looked at the rhinoceros demon indifferently and said softly, "Is that so? You?" The rhinoceros demon was halfway through its sentence when its eyes suddenly widened. A look of shock appeared on his face. A small hole had appeared on the rhinoceros demon's horn at some point in time. The hole was so small that no one had noticed it. But for Mu, a small hole was enough. Under everyone's astonished gazes, the rhinoceros demon raised its head and spat out a mouthful of blood. The bright red blood splattered on the ground, looking extremely ghastly. He pointed at Mu in disbelief, but he could no longer speak. Cracks appeared on his rhinoceros horn, and a domineering sword chi wreaked havoc in his body, destroying the rhinoceros demon's meridians. Pah! With a crisp sound, the rhinoceros demon's horn shattered. The originally unstoppable rhinoceros horn was like a piece of porcelain that was instantly shattered into thousands of pieces by the powerful sword chi. Boom! The rhinoceros demon fell to the ground in pain, twitching uncontrollably on the ground. The white ape demon king originally sent him to the arena to severely injure the outstanding human youth, Lan Feng. After all, in everyone's opinion, challenging the 9th layer of the out-of-aperture stage rhinoceros demon, who had just stepped into the 1st layer of the out-of-aperture stage, was simply courting death. But who would have thought that this terrifying human youth would once again create a miracle? Relying on the strength of the first layer of the out-of-aperture stage, he forcibly defeated the ninth layer of the out-of-aperture stage demon. If I don't save him, he won't live. Although Mu Yu's voice was weak, it still clearly traveled into the White Ape Demon King's ears. The White Ape Demon King was furious. In a flash, he appeared beside the Rhinoceros Demon, who was already unconscious. The White Ape Demon King checked the Rhinoceros Demon's injuries. His face changed slightly, and he angrily shouted at Mu Yu, "Boy, you are so cruel. If I can't block this attack, I will die, right?" Mu Yu himself couldn't control the sword Qi, let alone use all his strength to deal with the Rhinoceros Demon, who was many times stronger than him. After all, Mu Yu had just stepped into the out-of-aperture stage and was unfamiliar with many aspects. But the Rhinoceros Demon was a true ninth layer of the out-of-aperture stage. It was impossible for Mu Yu to show mercy. Mu Yu smeared the bone-dissolving powder on the tip of Mu Ling's sword. In the instant when the rhinoceros horn and Mu Ling collided, the bone-dissolving powder melted a small hole in the rhinoceros horn. The tyrannical sword Qi immediately invaded the rhinoceros demon's body. No matter how invincible the rhinoceros demon's appearance was, the insides of its body were still extremely fragile. In an instant, Mu Yu's sword Qi heavily injured the rhinoceros demon's internal organs. The rhinoceros demon never thought that someone would attack his body. In his carelessness, the sword Qi wreaked havoc in his body. He couldn't catch his breath and immediately fell into a coma. He defeated the ninth layer of the out-of-aperture stage, Rhinoceros Demon. That's impossible, right? But the Rhinoceros Demon has already fallen, hasn't it? He just broke through the out-of-aperture stage. He actually defeated the ninth layer of the out-of-aperture stage, Rhinoceros Demon. Too terrifying. This Lan Feng actually has this kind of strength. This time, there were no cheers, only deep shock and amazement. No one knew how Mu Yu injured the Rhinoceros Demon. The rhinoceros monster had thick skin, and it was likely that no one in the out-of-body stage would be able to break through its defense. However, Mu Yu's shocking sword strike had easily defeated the rhinoceros monster. Even the thick-skinned rhinoceros monster could not withstand it. Is he a human or a demon? Is he actually more monstrous than a demon? Song Wanzi's face was also full of shock. When did such a talented junior appear in the human race? Why have I never heard of Lan Feng's name? Mu Yu, oh Mu Yu, you have created another miracle. Yuan Hua slightly nodded his head. The dark green bead in his walking stick began to become hazy. Through this bead, any disguise using spiritual energy would be useless. No matter how Mu Yu changed his appearance, he couldn't escape Yuan Hua's eyes. He's fine, that's great. Qiao Shui breathed a sigh of relief, then began to blame herself. If he won, then the demon race lost. As a member of the demon race, why did she feel lucky for him? Brat, I will make you pay for this. White Ape Demon King angrily snorted, then waved his hand for Long Xingyun to enter the arena. Long Xingyun had been paying attention to Qiao Shui's expression. He noticed that Qiao Shui had been acting strange ever since she entered the arena, as if she had lost her soul. Could this person be the Mu Yu that Qiao Shui was worried about? If it was Mu Yu, then White Ape Demon King would definitely recognize him. Did this person tell Qiao Shui something about Mu Yu? Long Xingyun didn't know the inside story, but the demon race had already been defeated by Lan Feng 4 times in a row. If the demon race lost again, then they wouldn't be able to establish their prestige in front of the humans and achieve their goal. His heart was vexed, thinking of how to get revenge from this person. Why haven't the out-of-body stage reinforcements arrived yet? Song Wanzi could see that Mu Yu was completely exhausted. No matter how hard he tried, it was impossible for him to carry on with the next round of competition. But at this moment, the reinforcements of the human race had yet to arrive, which was really annoying. I've won 4 matches, including Tian Ran, that's 5 matches. Even if I lose all the remaining matches, it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Mu Yu had done his best. He slowly turned around and walked off the arena. Brat, are you scared? Long Xingyun sneered behind him. I wish you could have said that in my last match. Muyu felt that this guy was really shameless. How could he say something like that at a time like this? Anyone could see that Muyu had already won the match as the weaker party. If he was in perfect condition, he wouldn't have minded tangling with this guy. Long Xingyun looked back at the other humans and arrogantly asked, "Is he the only one you humans have? I'm still thinking of how to use the rhinoceros injury on you guys." Many people were angry. They wished they could reach the out-of-body stage 9 right now and teach this guy a lesson. But after a long time of cursing, no one dared to step forward. Yao were born with physical advantages. Even if they were at the same level of cultivation, they wouldn't dare to say they could win. Especially when Long Xingyun dared to say such words. He was blatantly trying to cripple someone, not win easily. Many people looked at each other, unwilling to step forward. If they were given time to reach the out-of-body stage 9, perhaps they would have chosen to step forward. But they weren't this enigmatic Lan Feng. They didn't have the explosive power to defeat someone stronger than them. Muyu landed on the ground. The crowd automatically parted to make a path for him. Muyu's performance today made them remember the name Lan Feng. Muyu didn't say anything. He walked toward the large tree. He needed to treat his injuries first. This is an injury recovery pill. Take it. It was unknown when Taoist Yuan Hua had arrived in front of Muyu and handed a white pill bottle to Muyu. Yuan Hua's injury recovery pill? Heavens! How precious is that thing? Someone in the crowd immediately cried out in surprise. Yuan Hua was a powerful cultivator in the Danding School. The pills he refined were all miraculous. Even if it was a simple level 5 pill, it was something everyone would fight over. Muyu hesitated for a moment. He took the pill, but didn't immediately take it. He only put it in his pocket. He didn't have a good impression of the Danding School. He didn't even like this kind Yuan Hua. He still had an unerasable anger towards the Danding School. Not to mention how they dealt with Ku Mu, Shi Ding Tian, even tried to frame him for personal gain. He almost couldn't escape, but he still had to take the pill. Yuan Hua was a respected senior. If he didn't take it, then he would be too arrogant. Besides, he had no reason to not take it. He was now Lan Feng, not Muyu. Why shouldn't he take it? Maybe he could even give it to Ku Mu in the future. "Thank you, senior." Muyu bowed and saluted, then slowly walked under the tree and began to quietly heal her injuries. Yuan Hua quietly looked at Muyu. He didn't ask why he didn't take the pill. After a while, he turned his gaze back to the center of the competition. Long Xingyun was still the only one standing there. No human dared to fight. "Are you all going to forfeit?" Long Xingyun's voice carried a trace of ridicule. Losing without a fight was more humiliating than losing a battle. Chapter 284. No one wants to go up? Song Wanzi glanced at the young people who usually boasted of being geniuses, and his tone was also dissatisfied. If no one had responded to his question before Muyu went up, he would have thought it was reasonable. After all, the gap between their strength was obvious, and it was reasonable that no one dared to go up. But now, Muyu had set an example and won the competition as the weak, telling all the self-cultivators that the so-called demon race was not invincible. Muyu used his strength to teach the arrogant and despotic demon race a lesson, letting them know that the human race had extraordinary potential. Even a self-cultivator in the first sky of out-of-body realm could defeat a cultivator in the 9th sky of out-of-body realm. At this time, the self-cultivators should have been more confident. Even if they knew they would lose, they should lose on the field, not because they didn't even dare to go up. After Muyu became the pride of the human race, the others became cowards. How could Song Wanzi be satisfied with this? In fact, everyone was worried about one thing. If they went up, they would definitely lose. They didn't have the incredible strength of Muyu, so how could they be sure of winning? If they couldn't win, no one would praise them even if they went up to stand up for the human race. Everyone only looked at the result, not the process. No matter how hard you tried, people would only feel sorry for you if you lost, and it wouldn't bring you any benefits. No one was willing to do such a strenuous and unpleasant thing. Besides, Muyu had seriously injured his opponent. If they guessed right, the demon race wouldn't simply knock out the self-cultivators like they did at the beginning. Maybe the demon race would retaliate fiercely. Even if they didn't lose their lives, if their cultivation was destroyed, it would be worse than death. For a moment, no human dared to go up. Humph! Are you humans all so cowardly? No matter what, I have to make up for the injury on the rhinoceros to one of you. Long Xingyun sneered and made his purpose clear. He planned to seriously injure the next human on the field. The naked threat made these people lose their determination to go up. What a joke. The rhinoceros demon was injured like that. If they were injured like that, the loss would outweigh the gain. If anything happened to them, their lives would be over. Long Xingyun had been standing there for almost 15 minutes. Still, no cultivator dared to accept his challenge. Many people clenched their fists, but they didn't dare to go up. They were angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. They didn't want to use their future to show off their courage. Long Xingyun had already said that he would use the rhinoceros monster's injury on the next human. These young people were smart. They would not take the risk for an empty reputation. If they went up, they would definitely lose. They might even be severely injured by the Yao clan. Who would be willing to do such a thing? Go ahead. Why aren't you going up? That Long Xingyun wants revenge? That's too much. Sigh. It was all Lan Feng's fault. If he hadn't severely injured the rhinoceros, the demons wouldn't have thought of revenge. That way, even if we lose, we won't have to pay a painful price. A harsh voice suddenly came from the crowd. Yes, if only he had held back a little. That way, we would have only been knocked unconscious. Someone immediately chimed in. Muyu listened to the discussion of the crowd and was speechless for a moment. He won 4 matches for the human race. Instead of praise, he received complaints. Looking at these pampered young people, he suddenly felt that it was laughable. At first, these people were clamoring to teach the Yao clan a lesson. They shouted louder than anyone else. But they couldn't do it and could only stare helplessly. Then Muyu did it for them. He taught the Yao clan a lesson. But because of a single threat from the Yao clan, they blamed the person who stood up for them. Was this the self-cultivator he fought so hard to protect? It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, chilling his heart. Old Tree Leader once asked him what he would do if Meng and the human race went to war. Muyu didn't hesitate to stand on the side of the human race. He stood on the side of the self-cultivators. Now that he thought about it, why did Old Tree Leader say that he would bet on him? Could it be that he already knew the dirty side of human nature? Did I agree too hastily back then? The world of self-cultivators was full of deception. Many self-cultivators viewed human life as grass and only cared about their own interests. Before the competition with the Yao clan, they were all impassioned. But after seeing the high cultivation of the Yao clan, they all shrank back. Muyu taught the rhinoceros demon a lesson for these people. But because of Long Xingyun's words, these people began to point their fingers at Muyu, accusing him of being too heavy-handed. Was there a need for such a world of self-cultivators to exist? What nonsense are you talking about? You don't dare to stand up and instead talk nonsense. Are these the elites taught by your elders? Song Wanzi was furious when he heard these people's discussion. He didn't expect these young people to be so naive. They didn't understand the situation. Not only were they despised by the Yao clan, but they also said such sad words. They looked down on themselves and still wanted to fight with Yaman in the future? Fight for territory with the Yao clan? Where did these young people get their confidence from? Did they just rely on their mouths to disgust their opponents with their dirty words? The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Yuan Hua Daoist shook his head and sighed slightly. The phrase, the younger generation will surpass us in time, was supposed to praise the younger generation for surpassing their elders and making the older generation feel reverence. But Yuan Hua Daoist didn't mean this at all. He was worried that if these young people grew up, would they still be able to win against the Yao clan or Yuman in the future? The younger generation will surpass us in time, but he was afraid that these young people wouldn't be able to take on the heavy responsibility. Song Wanzi's gaze fiercely swept over those gossiping self-cultivators. If it weren't for the Yao clan's presence, he would have definitely taught these shameless young people a lesson. Don't pay attention to these people. There are always some people who are hopelessly stupid, Tian Rant's voice entered Muyu's ears like a spring breeze, startling Muyu. Tian Ran walked to Muyu's side, squatted down, and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Muyu was startled. He looked up at Tian Rant's innocent face, and his heart was in turmoil. Tian Rant's appearance made him feel a lot better. Song Wanzi and Yuanhua Daoist were also people who could see the big picture. There were still many righteous people in the cultivation world. He didn't need to doubt the cultivation world because of some stupid people. Muyu looked at Tian Ran, his eyes filled with indescribable emotions. He wanted to pinch Tian Ran's cheeks and tell Tian Ran that he was Muyu. He wanted to hear Tian Rant's joyful cry and hug each other. But he couldn't. At this moment, there were many pairs of eyes watching him. Even if he stood up for the human race, there would still be people who couldn't see the big picture who would accuse him of being too heavy-handed. If he exposed his identity and let everyone know that Lan Feng was Muyu, these people wouldn't know what other hurtful words they would say. Being talked about was one thing, but if they wanted to catch Muyu with his current situation, he could only let them deal with him. He thought that after this matter was over, he would definitely secretly find Tian Ran and explain everything to her. He would tell Tian Ran the words he hadn't said. Those words had been suppressed in his heart for a long time. Tian Ran said it to him, but he still hadn't said it. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern." Muyu bitterly shook his head. He wanted to hold Tian Ran in his arms, to hear her clear and melodious voice calling him Big Brother Muyu. It was just like that year at Luochen Mountain when Tian Ran took care of her father and became a member of Luochen Mountain. Every day, she would play with Muyu and live a carefree life. "My master said that the demon race will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. They won't let you go. You should recuperate well. And for those guys who are talking nonsense, just pretend you didn't hear them." Tian Ran kindly reminded him. Then, he looked at Muyu and sighed in his heart. Was it really not him? "Okay, I know." Muyu said these few words with difficulty. He resisted the urge to reveal any flaws and not let Tian Ran see any clues. Tian Ran stood up and slowly left. "I also like you, silly girl." Muyu looked at Tian Ran's back and silently said in his heart. He wanted to call out to Tian Ran, but what was the use? With Tian Ran's character, if she knew that Lan Feng was Muyu, she would definitely stubbornly follow behind Muyu and go with Muyu. But Muyu was now a traitor to the world of cultivators. He didn't want to implicate Tian Ran. "I'm sorry." It was the same weak and powerless word, but Muyu couldn't find the right words to say. The weather was very hot, shining down on the entire village. There was no wind in the surroundings, making people feel a little restless. At this moment, the atmosphere in 8 Grass Village was very awkward. The demon race had been shouting for a long time, but the human cultivators were like cowards. No one dared to go up. You don't dare to go up? Even if you lose, you should lose on the battlefield, not like a coward. Song Wanzi's temper was getting more and more irritable. If he could, he really wanted to fight with the white ape demon king. Long Xingyun stood there impatiently. He could release a powerful aura of the 9th heaven of the out-of-body stage. The aura on his body was very strong, and also carried a noble aura of the dragon race. As the descendant of the Azure Dragon Demon King, he was born with the dignity of a king. Even in front of a cultivator, it was quite shocking. Since no one dares to go up, then we, the demon race, win this round. I didn't expect the human race to be so cowardly. How ridiculous. Ha! Long Xingyun laughed contemptuously. I always thought that the human race had some skills. It seems that I worried too much. The demon race had been biding their time for thousands of years, constantly improving themselves in all aspects, in the hope that they could compete with the human race. In their view, the human race had good points in both the cultivation system and the cultural heritage. Originally arrogant, they had put down their airs and learned the advantages of the human race in all aspects, even including the etiquette of the competition. They had been improving, but the human race had been living like a prince for thousands of years. They cherished their own things and looked down on the demon race. Now, with only one meeting, many young human cultivators were scared out of their wits. "Little demon, Why are you in such a hurry? Are you in such a hurry to be beaten? At this moment, a gust of wind came from nowhere, blowing many bright petals. They danced in the wind and spun in the air, but didn't fall to the ground. A man stepped on the petals and fluttered in front of Long Xingyun. The flying petals circled around him. He picked up a petal and put it under his nose to smell it. This familiar way of making an entrance, this wanton and unrestrained voice, left Muyu stunned. Shimin Wuji was Dragon's son. Shimin Wuji was the descendant of the evil. Shimin Wuji is counting with his STTS. LTTTTTTTS. Many people backed away, not wanting to have anything to do with the evil faction's bane. They didn't want to sully themselves. Who knew what was wrong with this guy's head? Long Xingyun frowned. He was a bit angry. Who would have thought that he, the prince of the evil faction, will be left alone like that? If you want to fight, then fight. What do you mean by leaving just like that? He wouldn't be so troubled if he knew the nature of the evil factions. You could never guess what the evil faction's next move would be. One moment, they might be talking and laughing, and the next, they might slap you. Shimin Wuji waved his hand, and powerful spiritual energy swept out. Everyone's vision blurred, and then someone flew out of the crowd and was stepped on by Shimin Wuji. Everyone took a closer look. It was the person who'd just reprimanded Muyu for attacking the evil faction. His name was Tian Ping. He was a disciple of Stargate. His cultivation was at the second layer of out-of-body stage. He was originally chosen by Tsang Wanzi to participate in the evil faction's competition. Unfortunately, after hearing that Long Xingyun wanted to severely injure the contestant, he didn't dare to fight. He even complained that Lan Feng was too heavy-handed. Tian Ping was an out-of-body stage cultivator, but in front of Shimin Wuji, he couldn't resist at all. Shimin Wuji, what are you doing? Let me go. Shimin Wuji's aura was undoubtedly out-of-body stage, but his aura was much stronger than Tian Ping's. How could he be a match for Shimin Wuji? Shimin Wuji dragged him out and stepped on him. The whole process was so fast that the other Stargate disciples didn't even have time to react. Seniors, I want to teach this kind of idiot a lesson before I go up. Otherwise, if I beat this longhorned monster half to death, and someone complains that I was too heavy-handed, I won't be able to take it lying down. Senior Tsang Wanzi, you wouldn't mind, would you? Shimin Wuji casually bowed to Tsang Wanzi and said with a smile. Tsang Wanzi snorted and said, "You're a disciple of the evil faction, right? When will your master, that evil faction old man, die?" "Ah, so Senior knows my master. That's a great honor. My master is still fine. I'll go ask him when he'll die, then I'll report back to Senior." Shimin Wuji chuckled and bowed again. Only someone from the evil faction would dare to talk about his master in front of outsiders. His words made everyone involuntarily raise their middle fingers. This guy even dared to talk bad about his own master. Sure enough, he's a member of the evil faction. People who talk nonsense really need to be taught a lesson. Otherwise, people will be disappointed. Do as you see fit. Tsang Wanzi indifferently glanced at Tian Ping and coldly snorted. How could he not know that it was this disciple of the Stargate who was complaining about Lan Feng being too heavy-handed towards the demons? But the other party was a disciple of the Stargate. He was a senior of the Profound Spirit sect and a member of the Eight Gates. Because of his status, he didn't act like a senior. Now that the evil faction's Shimin Wuji wants to teach this spineless guy a lesson, then let him be. Letting the evil faction's people make a move is much better than doing it himself. Many thanks to Senior. Shimin Wuji once again bowed vertically. His words and actions were as polite as a well-educated youth. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone knew his character, they would have really treated him as a refined and courteous young master. Shimin Wuji, what do you want? Let me tell you, if you dare to touch a single hair on my head, my father won't. Before Tian Ping could finish speaking, Shimin Wuji gave him a slap, and a bright red palm print clearly appeared on his face. Just now, that rhinoceros demon proudly said that his skin was thick. I wasn't convinced. I thought my skin was thicker than his. It wasn't until I heard your words that I felt that your skin should be thicker than mine. Shimin didn't evade the slightest bit and backhandedly slapped Tianping. That sharp and clear sound scared many people, and everyone looked at Tianping's teeth mixed with blood flying out from its mouth. Only the evil factions people would dare to openly teach a lesson to someone from the Stargate. Your skin is really thick. My hands are a bit numb. Shimin slapped Tianping a few more times. Pa, pa, pa. After a few more slaps, Tianping's face was so swollen that he couldn't even speak. If he could speak, he would have cursed Shimin 18 generations of ancestors. The clear sound of hand and face slapping echoed in the crowd for a long time. No one dared to step forward to stop Shimin. Even the people from the Stargate were scared stiff. Tianping's cultivation was already the highest out of all the people from the Stargate. If the others went up, they would only be sending their heads to their deaths. Those who agreed with Tianping's words were so scared that they didn't dare to move. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They were afraid that they would also be pulled out by Shimin and have their faces swollen like a pig's head. At this moment, Tianping's original face was completely unrecognizable. He had even fainted. There wasn't a single good tooth in his mouth. Shimin rubbed his hands and said to Tianping, "Hey, remember next time, if you can use your hands, try not to use your mouth. If you don't dare to use your hands, then sew your mouth shut. It's useless even if you say anything." After saying that, he threw Tianping away like a dead dog and returned to Long Xingyun. "How far have you counted?" "I'm sure it's not 100, right? Let's start." Shimin took out a fan and opened it, as if nothing had happened. "You're an interesting person." Long Xingyun looked at Shimin again. "Is that so? But I don't think it's fun to fight a man like you." Shimin looked past Long Xingyun and saw a fox demon in the out-of-body stage 9. His eyes lit up, and he stroked his chin. Wait. Don't fight yet. Why don't you go down and take a rest? Let that fox demon sister come up. I love to talk about life with fox demon sisters." After saying that, he wiped the saliva from his mouth. Fox demons of the Yao clan were enchanting. Their bodies emitted endless charm, which made people's hearts flutter. They couldn't help but want to hold them in their arms. At this critical moment, Shimin was still thinking about flirting with girls, let alone one from the Yao clan. This made many people want to vomit blood. Shimin was usually crazy, but when it came to a competition that concerned the dignity of humans and Yao clans, couldn't he be serious for once? Why did he have to do so many things? "Oomph. If you can beat me, I'll let little fox spar with you," Long Xingyun said proudly. "Why do you have to go through so much trouble? Do you want to hear about my background?" Shimin suddenly asked. "Why do I need to know about your background?" Long Xingyun was baffled. If he wanted to fight, so be it. Did he want to rely on his background to make people go easy on him? All the cultivators below felt extremely embarrassed. Some of them even began to curse this evil cultivator. Was this Shimin retarded? Every time he had to talk about his background. Wasn't he tired of it? Did he really think that this kind of child's play was enough to deal with the Yao clan? Why do I feel like it's a mistake to put the hope of the human clan on a person from the Yao clan? Song Wanzi looked at Shimin with a headache. He had more or less heard about Shimin deeds and felt very uncomfortable. People from the Yao clan had always been rejected by the major righteous sects in the cultivation world. If some meddlesome person wanted to make a ranking list of people hated by cultivators, the first would be Yuman, the second would be the Yao clan, and the third would definitely be people from the Yao clan. However, at this moment, none of the so-called righteous sects stepped forward. Instead, it was the Yao clan's Shimin who stepped forward. Whether he won or not was secondary. At least Shimin dared to step forward. In this aspect, he had a lot more backbone than the younger generation of self-proclaimed righteous sections. It was just that after Shimin stepped forward, he did a lot of embarrassing things. Everyone couldn't stand it anymore. It didn't feel like he was giving face to the human clan leader, but rather a disgrace to the human clan. But Shimin didn't care what other people thought. He continued to do as he pleased. Regardless of whether Long Xingyun was willing to listen or not, Shimin Wuji already began to speak neurotically. After you hear about my background, you won't think that I'm an interesting person. This story started a long, long time ago. When I was 4, my grandmother drowned. When I was 5, my grandfather suddenly died. When I was 6, my father was killed for revenge. When I was 7, my mother committed suicide. When I was 8, I was sold to a brothel because I was too good-looking. That lecherous old man who was eating young grass took a fancy to me. He only found out that I was a man when he took off my pants. Then, because of my innate talent and intelligence, which was unprecedented and rarely seen in 100 years, he decided to take me as his disciple. When that unlucky old man heard about my experience, he named me Shimin Wuji, but I always knew that fate was in my own hands. I must learn how to fight. I won't yield to fate. I decided to name myself Shimin Wuji. Oh no, Shimin Shueishue. I want to let everyone know that I'm very handsome. I want to prove to everyone that I'm very handsome. After Shimin Wuji finished speaking, he scattered a bunch of flowers. Then he took out a flute and began to play a sorrowful tune. His flute music was long and mournful. Many people hurriedly covered their ears. Shimin Wuji's tricks were very destructive. If one wasn't careful, they would fall for it. Many people had already fallen for it. Fuck, is Shimin Wuji an idiot? The Devil Clan is so powerful. How could they be defeated by such a small trick? That's right. This kind of mediocre trick is simply a disgrace to our human clan. If it can have even the slightest effect, I'll eat shit. The cultivators angrily cursed. Some of them even wanted to go up and give him a kick. This was supposed to be a serious competition, yet he had turned it into such an awkward situation. Talking and singing, they really didn't know what was wrong with this guy's brain. It would be strange if he could defeat the Demon Clan with such a childish method. However, Shimin Wuji's flute was still playing. A sorrowful atmosphere enveloped the entire 8-grass village. Bang! No one thought that Long Xingyun would suddenly cover his chest with his hand, close his eyes, and fall straight to the ground. Then he made a muffled sound, and a large hole appeared in the ground. After that, he fell unconscious. Oh my God, this guy can do it. Chapter 286. Mui was also dumbfounded. What kind of melodramatic plot was this? He thought that with Long Xingyun's arrogance, plus he had the right to be arrogant, he would at least fight Shimin Wuji for a few hundred rounds. But who would have thought that Shimin Wuji would use a despicable lament to defeat Long Xingyun? Any self-cultivator who knew Shimin Wuji would know how to dodge such a simple evil technique. But how did Long Xingyun fall for it? Muyu suddenly remembered that if it wasn't for Kai Lai's reminder, he probably wouldn't have fared much better than Long Xingyun. He coughed slightly and decided to ignore this fact. Instead, he sighed at the profoundness of evil techniques. Do you not have any experience as a demon? Shimin Wuji was stunned. He didn't expect this to work. Anyone with a bit of common sense wouldn't be defeated by him. Originally, he only wanted to play a sad song to liven things up according to his usual entrance. Who would have thought that the insufferably arrogant Long Xingyun would fall just like that? What a surprise. Long Xingyun was indeed a demon with little experience. The demon race had always been suppressed by human beings and rarely showed themselves in the world of cultivators. He did not know much about the arts of human beings, not to mention that he was a noble among the demons. Although the demons had been improving, they still looked down on humans. They thought that humans only relied on their numbers. If they really fought, the demons wouldn't be afraid at all. What they really cared about were the profound techniques of the 8 gates. They didn't care about Shimin Wuji's unorthodox techniques at all. But who would have thought that such a cheap trick could defeat the prince of the demon race, Long Xingyun? Long Xingyun grew up in the halo of a genius. He thought that he was invincible among his peers. As for humans, he looked down on them even more. That was why he was defeated by Shimin Wuji's ridiculous technique. That was the price he had to pay for his arrogance. Come, carry him down. Next one. Shimin Wuji straightened his clothes and coughed, putting on the demeanor of an expert. Everyone clicked their tongues. Shimenwuji was shameless to the extreme. But the human self-cultivators could not deny the fact that it was this unreliable Shimenwuji who helped the human race defeat the demon race. Even if it was an insignificant trick or an unorthodox trick, Shimenwuji didn't use any shameful method. His lament song was played in front of you in an open and above-board manner, winning in an open and above-board manner. The white ape demon king's face turned black. He knew that he had underestimated the humans. The intelligence of humans was a notch higher than that of the demon race, and they had all kinds of strange techniques. In this aspect, the demon race could not compare to humans. Although the cultivation of the demon race youth was not bad, even if they met the elites of the human race, they would not be inferior. However, the demon race youths were all arrogant and looked down on humans. They lost because of their shallow experience. The white ape demon king knew that even if they won today, they still had a long way to go before they could divide the world equally with the humans. He took back Long Xingyun and checked his injuries. He found that Long Xingyun's breathing was slow, and his consciousness was shaken by the strange flute music. Other than that, there was nothing serious. Long Xingyun was after all the prince of the demon race. Shimenwuji's lament song couldn't kill him, but Long Xingyun had always been arrogant and arrogant. The white ape demon king knew that he had to teach him a lesson when he returned, otherwise he would not be able to bear the heavy responsibility. No one dared to look down on this evil sex Shimenwuji, even though he had never been looked down on. If people were to talk about the young generation of the self-cultivators, Shimenwuji would definitely be ranked among them. Even if they didn't want to admit it, they couldn't refute it. No one was clear about his true strength. When he was stirring up trouble everywhere in the cultivation world, he basically didn't really make a move. Those people who wanted to provoke him were all dismissed by him with a few words, or directly kicked away. Shimenwuji rarely used the evil sex cultivation method. People from the evil sex had always been despised because they did things according to their mood. They did as they pleased, without any organization. However, each and every one of them had great strength. This was also the reason why they could move unhindered in the self-cultivators world. Shimenwuji was the representative of the evil sections. His reputation was known by almost everyone. It could even be said that he was notorious, but he had always lived a carefree life. This brat is very similar to his master. Sure enough, they're the same kind of trash. Song Wanzi was also somewhat surprised, but he still tried his best to hide the smile on his face. In fact, he was very happy that the humans won this round. However, when he thought of this guy's background, he felt a bit ashamed. In this competition, other than Tian Ran and Lan Feng, who was from an unknown sect, the rest of the so-called righteous sects were all useless. Who do you think will win if these two fight? Yuan Hua Daoist looked back and forth between Mu Yu and Xie Bula with interest. Right now, Lan Feng shouldn't be able to defeat Mu Yu, but in the future, it's hard to say. Song Wanzi was very optimistic about this Lan Feng, who was also Mu Yu. Heavy footsteps sounded on the field. The demon race sent out a completely black armored iron beetle demon. With every step he took, the armor on his body made a clattering sound. Everyone rolled their eyes. Why did the demon race like to send out a thick-skinned demon to compete with the humans? It looked like they had no desire to continue fighting. Why is there an armored one? Shimenwuji curled his lips and shouted towards the demon race. Didn't you say that if I defeated that longhorn demon, Little Sister Fox would come up and talk to me about life? I want to play with Little Sister Fox. The fox demon looked at Shimenwuji with a charming gaze, but didn't go up. In order to guarantee victory, the white ape demon king couldn't let the fox demon go up. The iron beetle demon didn't give Shimenwuji a chance to talk nonsense. He jumped up and directly rushed towards Shimenwuji. Wait a minute, are you crazy? I only want to talk about life with Little Sister Fox. You're a big man. Who wants to play with you? Shimenwuji lightly patted the iron beetle demon's head with his evil nether fan. A huge gust of wind blew the iron beetle demon to the side. His seemingly effortless pat actually repelled the iron beetle demon. Just what kind of strength does Shimenwuji have? The Iron Beetle demon let out a treacherous voice. I'm a girl, not a big man. Everyone was stunned. This Iron Beetle demon was actually a girl? Looking at her majestic body, it didn't look like a girl at all. Shimonwuji opened his mouth and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He then said with a smile, Little Sister Beetle, we're not fated to be together. How about this? I'll introduce you to a few handsome human men later. How about you go down and call Little Sister Fox up? No matter how shameless Shimonwuji was, he didn't have such a heavy taste. He really couldn't think of taking liberties with this Iron Beetle demon. If you can beat me, let Little Fox come up. The Iron Beetle demon pounced at Shimonwuji again. It's hard for me to beat a little demon like you. I don't want to waste half a day. Our human race will send someone else up. Shimonwuji shouted. The cultivators were stunned. This Shimonwuji didn't want to fight the Iron Beetle demon. Seeing how easily he repelled the Iron Beetle demon, he clearly didn't fear it. But he just wanted to wash his hands of it. Who else in the human race could go up besides him? What was this guy doing? Was he still pretending to be obedient after getting an advantage? Shimonwuji had already leisurely walked to the side and was fanning himself from time to time. Everyone once again looked down on this guy. People from the evil faction were really unreliable. If they said they wouldn't fight, they wouldn't fight. They did things based on their mood. Shimonwuji, what's the meaning of this? Song Z angrily said. Shimonwuji opened his fan and laughed. Senior, I'm only going to fight one round. I didn't say I was going to fight a second round. What glory of fighting for the human race. You know I don't care about that title. I'm only going up to help that interesting little brother clean up the guy who talked nonsense. I'm not here for the face of the human race. Since Senior agreed for me to beat up that Tian Ping, I have to fight to express my gratitude. Right? Shimonwuji winked at Muyu. Muyu was stunned. What did this guy mean? Could it be that he had been recognized? If he didn't recognize him, then with his current appearance, he didn't have any friendship with him, right? Did he still need him to stand up for him? People from the evil faction were eccentric. Everyone had seen it, but they had nothing to say. If Shimonwuji wanted to fight, he would fight. If he didn't want to fight, he wouldn't fight. Even Song Z couldn't force him. If it was someone else who wouldn't obediently finish the competition under Song Z's questioning. Unfortunately, Shimonwuji didn't buy it. No one could say he was wrong for refusing, even if he could easily take down this Iron Beetle demon. After all, he had already taught the demon race a lesson. Damn it, if I had his strength, I would have already stepped on the demon race. This Shimonwuji is really shameless. That's right, he didn't cherish such a good opportunity to show off. It's really annoying. The cultivators once again cursed. Many people were so angry that they stomped their feet. They wished they could have all of Shimonwuji's strength and beat up the demon race. This way, they would definitely become famous in the cultivation world and become a great hero of the human race. Unfortunately, Shimonwuji didn't have any thoughts about the identity of a hero. Song Z coldly snorted, extremely annoyed. People from the evil faction were really unreliable. What angered him the most was that if Shimonwuji didn't want to fight, then he couldn't force him to fight. Because no one could say for sure if Shimonwuji would throw in the towel halfway. With the character of the evil faction, Song Z reminded him that this was very possible. It was a pity that the righteous sex didn't have any talents, and the human race's reinforcements hadn't arrived yet. This allowed Shimonwuji to be a villain. Now, if the human race wanted to win, they could only rely on Shimonwuji. Shimonwuji, do you have any requests? If you win the competition, I will certainly satisfy you. Song Z held back his anger. I appreciate Senior's kindness, but I have no desires. I don't need others to satisfy me. Shimonwuji fanned the evil nether fan. His words once again made many people angry. Don't fucking give it to me. But Shimonwuji then leisurely said, although I don't want to fight this meaningless competition, I can recommend someone to you. Recommend someone? Everyone's gaze fell on the still, resting lawn phone. Other than Shimonwuji, there was only lawn phone. Chapter 287. If Shimin Wuji could obediently finish the rest of the competition, it was very likely that the human race would be able to severely defeat the demon race. But this guy just liked to stir up trouble. He simply didn't care about other people's eagerness to fight for a chance to show off. At this time, he was too lazy to make a move and wanted to bring out another person. Who knew if his words were reliable or not? Who? Song Wanzi forcibly suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart. He wondered when he would catch this guy and give him a good beating. When it was time to make him contribute to the human race, he was simply asking for a beating. Song Wanzi glanced at the cultivators present again. He really couldn't think of anyone here who could take on such a heavy responsibility. Except for Shimin Wuji, whose cultivation was unknown. The highest cultivation of the other cultivators was only at the 5th layer of out-of-body stage, and he was knocked unconscious by the demon race. All the human cultivators also looked around and shook their heads. They didn't know who Shimin Wuji was referring to. Shimin Wuji shook his head and opened his fan. He leisurely shouted toward the distant hillside, "Hey, you watching the show? Are you going to make a move? I've already made a move." Everyone looked in the direction Shimin Wuji was pointing. There was a small hillside overflowing with gravel. On the hillside stood a large stone. A young man in red was leaning against the stone with his arms crossed and a tired look on his face. Muyi was startled. He had never expected to see this young man here. Luo Shang. It was actually his second senior brother, Luo Shang. At this moment, Luo Shang's aura was even stronger than Shimin Wuji's. He was definitely at the 9th layer of out-of-body stage. He gave people the impression that he was quite bold and unrestrained, like a vigorous flame, passionate and vigorous. Luo Shang's eyes inadvertently swept over Muyu. He raised his eyebrows and then looked at Shimin Wuji. He slightly shook his head and said, "Not interested." Everyone was in an uproar. This was also an out-of-body young man. Shimin Wuji seemed to know this young man. According to Shimin Wuji's tone, this young man had the ability to defeat this iron-armored demon insect. But the other party refused so directly. What was he trying to do? Was he another person from the evil faction? "You don't dare." Shimin Wuji chuckled. "Disdain," Luo Shang said briefly. "You don't want to make a move, do you? I don't think it's challenging at all. That's why I'm too lazy to deal with this beetle." Shimin Wuji pursed his lips and said lazily, "I just want to talk about life with little sister Fox. I don't care about the other little demons." Hearing the conversation between the two of them, the others simply had the urge to curse. It turned out that they were both little experts in subduing demons, yet they disdained to make a move. If it were someone else who had the ability to repel this beetle, they would have long fought to show off in front of Song Wanzi and the other seniors. Why would they be so wishy-washy and make all sorts of excuses? How shameless. Unfortunately, those who had the ability disdained to make a move, while those who had no ability couldn't make a move. Don't you two have any thoughts of fighting for the human race? Song Wanzi was slightly angered. He didn't understand what was wrong with the youngsters these days. They didn't even have the consciousness to fight for the dignity of the human race. The moral of the world was degenerating day by day, and each generation was worse than the previous. How could he not see through the cultivation of these two people? No matter which one of them made a move, the demon race had no chance of winning. However, the two of them just didn't want to make a move and only knew how to make sarcastic remarks. At this time, the people he could rely on were no longer reliable. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He really wanted to rush over and teach these two youngsters a lesson. Fight for the human race? I don't have that thought, Luo Shang said briefly, not giving Song Wanzi any face. Shimin Wuji saw Song Wanzi's increasingly ugly expression. He knew that if he continued to be arrogant, Song Wanzi might even have the intention to kill them. They still couldn't offend the seniors. At least before they had the strength, they had to admit defeat first. Otherwise, it would be too unjust to be slapped to death. He thought for a moment and said, "Luo Shang, you'd better not provoke the seniors. I know your secrets. If you don't make a move, that senior won't let us go. At worst, I'll just reveal your little secret to protect myself. You won't be so lucky. Are you threatening me?" Luo Shang looked at Shimin Wuji with an unkind expression. No, no, the seniors are threatening me. Shimin Wuji smiled and pointed at Songwan Zi and the others. Songwan Zi's face flashed with anger. Shimin Wuji was arrogant because he had the capital to be arrogant. Why was this Luo Shang pretending to be a wolf? He didn't know which sect Luo Shang came from, but if he knew, he would have definitely paid a visit and had a cup of tea with him. You want me to go up there? Same old rules. You know what to do if you want me to do something. Luo Shang said impatiently. Okay, you're really long-winded. Nothing good ever happens to me when I go out with you. Shimin Wuji rolled his eyes. The two of them actually made some kind of secret deal. It seemed Shimin Wuji didn't like this kind of deal. Luo Shang snorted and lightly stepped forward. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the iron-armored demon insect. He coldly looked at the iron-armored demon insect and said, "You're not my match. Go down and find someone stronger. Don't say I bullied you." What an arrogant tone. No need. I'll let you have a taste of my power. The iron-armored demon insect had never been underestimated. Although she couldn't see through the opponent's cultivation, she wasn't afraid. Luo Shang's cultivation was also at the out-of-body stage. How dare he look down on her? The iron-armored demon insect thought about how the demon race's competition had gone wrong, except for the first 2 rounds. She was furious. She screamed and charged at Luo Shang. Luo Shang didn't dodge. He just watched as the iron-armored demon insect charged at him. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and calmly looked at the iron-armored demon insect. When the iron-armored demon insect body was about to slam into him, he slowly stretched out a hand and pressed it against the iron-armored demon insect's body. Ding! A soft sound rang out. Everyone thought that it was going to be an earth-shattering explosion. They didn't expect that it was just a soft sound. The iron-armored demon insect's huge impact didn't even cause Luo Shang to sway. It was as if he had hit cotton. The iron-armored demon insect stopped in front of Luo Shang. She didn't move at all. Her expression was one of extreme panic. "I can't kill, right?" Luo Shang said softly. He flicked his finger, and the iron-armored demon insect was sent flying like a cannonball. It fell heavily in front of the white ape demon king without any resistance. What? Another one-hit victory? This Luo Shang was actually so terrifying. How could his seemingly thin and weak body have such a strange cultivation? No one saw how he injured the iron-armored demon insect. However, compared to Shimin Wuji, who sent the iron-armored demon insect flying with a single fan, Luo Shang was much more efficient. Some sharp-eyed people already remembered where they had seen Luo Shang before. Back at the floating immortal island, when Shimin Wuji shamelessly teased Fairy Meng Xin, the famous Lu Feng wanted to stand up for Fairy Meng Xin. In the end, Shimin Wuji threw the mess to Luo Shang. Luo Shang also used 2 fingers to defeat the famous Lu Feng. No one knew about Luo Shang's background. The cultivation world only knew about him twice. The first time was when he defeated Lu Feng with 2 fingers on the floating immortal island. He also helped Muyu escape during the Jindan period. The second time was when he single-handedly defeated the tough, iron-armored demon insect today. How come no one knew about such a powerful young man before? These 2 times, there was always Shimin Wuji who was blindly meddling. Could it be that this guy was also a member of the younger generation who had just jumped out from the evil faction? What kind of move is this? When did such a powerful young man appear in the evil faction? Song Wanzi frowned. It was reasonable to say that the human race had once again easily defeated the demon race. This should have been something worth celebrating, but he was very unhappy. Because the representative of the human race was actually a person from the evil sect that everyone hated. This made the other righteous sects look too cheap. Since when did the evil faction need to stand up for the human race and protect the dignity of the human race? He was really angry. White Ape Demon King carefully examined the iron-armored demon insect's injuries. When his hand touched the iron-armored demon insect's body, he immediately felt a burning sensation. His face was ashen as he channeled his spiritual energy into the iron-armored demon insect's body. The iron-armored demon insect's body was as if it had been burned by fire. Many places were scorched. This method was extremely strange and made him think of the fire Yaman, but he still wasn't sure. Xiao Shui Ice. White Ape Demon King said in a deep voice. Xiao Shui raised her hand, and the water spirit immediately covered the iron-armored demon insect's body and turned it into ice. A hissing sound came from the iron-armored demon insect's body, accompanied by a burst of white smoke. The iron-armored demon insect's black iron skin was indestructible, but at this moment, it was like teppanyaki, almost roasting the iron-armored demon insect. If Luo Shang hadn't shown mercy, the iron-armored demon insect would have been finished in just one move. When White Ape Demon King saw the water spirit, he was stunned for a moment. In the blink of an eye, he stared at Luo Shang, then turned his gaze to Mu Yu, who was recuperating. He turned his head and asked Xiao Shui, "Tell me honestly, is that guy named Lanfeng Mu Yu? He returned the water spirit to you, didn't he? This human youth who suddenly appeared has the same ability as you. He can control fire, right?" White Ape Demon King was an old monster who had lived for thousands of years. How could anything be hidden from him? When Xiao Shui took out the water spirit, he already knew that the human boy named Lanfeng was Mu Yu. He had seen Xiao Shui give the water spirit to Mu Yu with his own eyes. The water spirit was a Yuman sacred artifact and could not be faked. A trace of panic flashed across Xiao Shui's face. When Mu Yu returned the water spirit to her, she was so distracted that she didn't care that the return of the water spirit would expose Mu Yu's identity. When she was treating the iron-armored demon insect just now, she had neglected this point and took out the water spirit without hesitation. She hadn't expected White Ape Demon King to catch her red-handed. "I don't know." Xiao Shui's voice lowered as she secretly glanced at Mu Yu in the crowd, feeling a little flustered. She knew that if Mu Yu's identity was exposed, he wouldn't be able to stay in the human race. If the Demon King revealed this matter, wouldn't it harm him? White Ape Demon King thoughtfully nodded and said playfully, "Xiao Shui, that Mu Yu you can't forget is standing on the human race's side. This isn't good. I need to help him. Grandpa Ape don't." Xiao Shui hurriedly said, but White Ape Demon King had already taken a step forward and merged into the void. In the blink of an eye, he was already beside Mu Yu. Mu Yu only felt a huge spiritual pressure coming from beside him. He suddenly felt an endless sense of crisis shrouding his body. Just as he wanted to resist, he was shocked to find that his body was firmly imprisoned. Then, the White Ape Demon King laughed evilly and grabbed Mu Yu out of the cave. "Bastard! White Ape Demon King, release Lanfeng. The competition isn't over yet, and you're already angry out of shame?" Song Wanzi angrily shouted. White Ape Demon King's speed was too fast. Even Song Wanzi and Yuan Hua Daoist were unable to stop him. The three of them had already rushed towards White Ape Demon King, wanting to snatch Lanfeng from his hands. "White Ape Demon King, you're a dignified Demon King, yet you use such a despicable method to deal with a junior of the human race." Yuan Hua Daoist cane flickered with a green light. His body was still stooped, but at this moment he emitted a terrifying aura. His amiable expression disappeared and was replaced with a trace of anger. "Release me, you old hairy monkey." Mu Yu angrily struggled, but White Ape Demon King only looked at him mockingly. Then he laughed and said to all the self-cultivators, "Haha, what a joke. Mu Yu was originally a member of the demon race. When did he become a member of the human race?" "Mu Yu? That traitor of the human race, Mu Yu." Chapter 288. Mu Yu? Was the White Ape Demon King confused? The person in his hands was clearly Lanfeng, who had just fought for the human race. When did he become Mu Yu? Song Wanzi's figure also stopped in midair. He was startled for a moment, then coldly snorted. "Who are you calling Mu Yu?" Nowadays, Mu Yu's name could be said to be known by everyone, not to mention others. The White Ape Demon King who came to provoke the human race had an unclear relationship with Mu Yu. The White Ape Demon King had revealed Mu Yu's identity and even said some nonsense. Now, even if Mu Yu jumped into the Yellow River, he wouldn't be able to clear his name. Mu Yu was restrained by the White Ape Demon King and couldn't move. In his heart, he was already cursing the White Ape Demon King's 19 generations of ancestors. He was already worried that once he made a move, his identity would be exposed, so he was very careful. He didn't expect that the cunning White Ape Demon King would still be able to catch him. "Release me, old monkey," Mu Yu unceremoniously cursed. The White Ape Demon King smiled and patted Mu Yu's face. "I just found out that your face is not normal. Let me give you a facelift." Without waiting for Mu Yu to protest, the White Ape Demon King stretched out his white-haired hand and touched Mu Yu's face, making Mu Yu feel disgusted. He shouted, "Old monkey, I'm warning you, don't touch me. If you disfigure me, I'll fight you to the death." But it was too late. Mu Yu only felt that the spiritual power on his face had begun to dissipate. His face gradually returned to its original appearance. Although Mu Yu's reputation was great, very few people knew what he looked like. However, there were still a few young talents present who had been to Fuxian Island. When Mu Yu caused havoc on Fuxian Island, these people were also present. So when the White Ape Demon King removed the disguise on Mu Yu's face, there were immediately people who exclaimed in disbelief. "It's really Mu Yu? That's right, it's him. So Lan Feng is Mu Yu, but wasn't he trapped in the second heaven? When did he come out from the second heaven?" Like a stone falling into a tranquil lake, the cultivators suddenly burst into an uproar. They began to point at Mu Yu, who was in the air. Many people were extremely surprised. At the same time, they were angered by the White Ape Demon King's statement that Mu Yu is a member of our demon race. The White Ape Demon King had brazenly said this sentence. Didn't it mean that Mu Yu is really related to the White Ape Demon King? Ever since Mu Yu had helped the White Ape Demon King escape, the cultivators have been talking about him. Many people believe that the White Ape Demon King had used demonic arts to bewitch Mu Yu, and Mu Yu had paid the price and was trapped in the second heaven. Therefore, no one went to look for Mu Yu's whereabouts. Who would have thought that the White Ape Demon King would suddenly use such a method to pull Mu Yu out from the hands of the cultivators? "Old monkey, who is a member of a demon race. Don't disgust me." Mu Yu angrily cursed. "Stinking brat, I gave you face, and you still don't want it. Our demon race is a superior race. Even if you want to join us, I won't accept you. It's good that you don't want to accept me. Then why are you doing this to me?" Mu Yu was about to explode in anger. The White Ape Demon King sneered and said, "It's nothing. I just suddenly wanted to have some fun. You suddenly ran out and messed up my plan. I have to make you pay a price. Of course, I won't do it myself. You can go back to your human race." The White Ape Demon King released Mu Yu. He didn't want to kidnap Mu Yu. He just wanted to find trouble with Mu Yu. Now that Mu Yu's identity had been exposed and he had said some unclear words, he had forced Mu Yu into a desperate situation. The human race had been shouting about beating up the demon race. The White Ape Demon King wanted to see how the human race would deal with this guy who had caused trouble for the human race and also brought glory to the human race. Mu Yu and the White Ape Demon King pulled apart some distance. However, even more unfriendly gazes were cast on him. Just as the White Ape Demon King thought, Mu Yu had become the target of public criticism of the human race. Many of the cultivators didn't believe Mu Yu. The White Ape Demon King was very cunning. He deliberately exposed Mu Yu's identity and then watched the show from the sidelines. He wanted to take revenge on Mu Yu for messing up the competition. However, no one thought that a light figure would float out from the human race and go directly towards Mu Yu. "Big brother Mu Yu," Tian Ran's surprised voice sounded. Then, Mu Yu only felt a burst of fragrance, and Tian Ran threw herself into his arms. "You really came out of the second layer of heaven? That's great. I knew you would be fine." Tian Ran cried tears of joy. The moment she saw Mu Yu, she felt that everything had become so beautiful. It was as if she had found something that she had lost in her heart again. Endless joy filled her chest. Mu Yu also hugged Tian Ran. His heart was warm, but he also felt that things were a little tricky. At the moment, his identity was very sensitive. Tian Ran was duty-bound to follow him. If he was hunted down by the human race, he was afraid that Tian Ran would be implicated. "I'm sorry, Tian Ran. I'll explain it to you later," Muyu whispered. The two of them hugged each other in the air, but everyone showed a strange expression. The demon race came out to cause trouble. No one could defeat their young generation. Tian Ran and Lan Feng stood up and taught the demon race a lesson, helping the human race vent their anger. But who would have thought that Lan Feng was Muyu, and the main culprit who released the white ape demon king? "You are Muyu?" Song Wanzi snorted. He was also deeply shocked that Lan Feng was Muyu. Who would have thought that the genius who fought against 4 demon race people alone was the instigator of this matter? "Yes, I survived the disaster and came back from the second layer of heaven," Muyu calmly replied. His eyes glanced at Luo Shang. Luo Shang also pursed his lips and looked at him expressionlessly. "What do you want to explain?" Song Wanzi asked again. Muyu frowned and asked, "Do you believe my explanation? No matter what, you need to come back with me and accept the interrogation of the major sections. You need to give the cultivation world an explanation as to why you colluded with the demon race." Song Wanzi snorted. "Senior, Brother Mu, you must have some difficulties. I know he's not that kind of person," Tian Ran quickly said. Song Wanzi saw Tian Ran's words, and his expression eased a little. Compared to the unclear relationship between Mu Yu and the White Ape Demon King, Tian Ran was more innocent. She came from the Red Dust sect and helped the human race fight back. Even if she was with Mu Yu now, from her actions just now, it was clear that she didn't know that Lan Feng was Mu Yu. "Okay, I'll give him a chance. Tell me what difficulties he has," Song Wanzi said. "Brother Mu Yu, quickly explain to Senior that you and the demon race are innocent, right?" Tian Ran eagerly said. Mu Yu lovingly patted Tian Ran's head, but shook his head and said, "There's nothing to explain. I just wanted to help Xiao Shui, because she's a human. I don't want her to have an unclear relationship with the demon race." He couldn't explain. Was he supposed to say that he helped Xiao Shui because of her ability to control water? That's not a good enough reason, Song Wanzi said. Luo Shang's footsteps flashed, and he came to Mu Yu's side. The moment he saw Mu Yu's appearance, he didn't show a trace of surprise, as if he had already expected it. "Why don't you just stay put and wait for me to take you away? Aren't you unhappy if you don't cause me trouble?" Luo Shang directly scolded Mu Yu. Just like how Mu Yu didn't like this cheap second senior brother, the second senior brother also didn't like this junior brother. Mu Yu wasn't happy. He also had a problem with Luo Shang. So he said, "Senior brother, you're wrong. Usually, it's the trouble that comes to me, not the other way around. You two are senior and junior brothers? You're also the disciple of my pill cauldron sex Deadwood Evergreen?" Daoist Yuan Hua slowly came to Song Wanzi's side and sized up Luo Shang and Mu Yu in surprise. "Deadwood Evergreen, I don't know him," Luo Shang curtly said. Mu Yu felt that if he were to explain this matter, it would probably become a mess. Strictly speaking, Deadwood Evergreen wasn't his real master. His master was the true god, Sword Enchantment of the Third Continent. But if he were to say all this, who would believe him? No matter what, Mu Yu needs to go back to the Pill Cauldron sect with me. Not to mention your relationship with the demon race. You also need to explain why Shi Dongtian's grandson died in your hands. In addition, Gue Xianyue from the Gate of Hell is also said to be killed by you. You need to explain all of this clearly. Daoist Yuan Hua was choked by Luo Shang, but he wasn't angry and still spoke slowly. "Sure, Minghui wanted to kill me, so I was just defending myself. As for Gue Xianyue, he deserved to die," Mu Yu casually said. Song Wanzi was very angry with Mu Yu's attitude. No junior had ever spoken to him like this. He angrily said, "You're still so arrogant after killing someone. You're not allowed to go anywhere today. After this matter is over, come with us to the Pill Cauldron sect and wait for your sect's punishment." Mu Yu chuckled and said, "My sect? My sect is not the Pill Cauldron sect. I owe Deadwood a favor, but I'm not his disciple. I'm not a disciple of the Pill Cauldron sect." The crowd below was in an uproar again. Mu Yu actually dared to openly betray his sect at this moment. How audacious! Taoist Yuan Hua's expression was also a bit ugly. He shook his head and sighed. Now that you've said this, even if I want to protect you, it's impossible. Do you think I can keep my life if I go back with you? Mu Yu sneered. The Pill Cauldron sect still had Shi Dangtian. If Shi Dangtian wanted to avenge his grandson, who could stop him? If you don't go back with us, do you think you can fly away? Song Wanzi was furious and reached out to grab Mu Yu. Why are you in such a hurry? Mu Yu still wants to join our demon race. White Ape Demon King laughed heartily and pushed Song Wanzi back. White Ape Demon King, don't go too far. Song Wanzi snorted. Mu Yu and Luo Shang had already retreated. Tian Ran wanted to follow them, but Piao Miao Fairy grabbed Tian Ran and said, You can't go. No, I want to be with Big Brother Mu Yu. Tian Ran wanted to break free from Piao Miao Fairy, but in front of Piao Miao Fairy, she didn't have any strength left to resist. Mu Yu secretly sighed in his heart. Tian Ran naturally couldn't follow him. He was now a wanted criminal in the cultivation world. He couldn't drag Tian Ran down. Shimin Wuji, get over here, Luo Shang shouted. Shimin Wuji had a bitter expression in the distance. Obviously, he was very unwilling to get involved in this muddy water. But for some reason, he still landed beside Mu Yu and glared at Mu Yu. Damn, nothing good happens every time I meet my brother-in-law. This time, I'm going to be scolded by the people of the cultivation world again. Damn, haven't you been scolded enough? Also, I'm not your brother-in-law. Mu Yu simply wanted to kick this guy. Shimin Wuji, you want to help Mu Yu leave? Yuan Hua asked while leaning on his walking stick. Shimin Wuji shook his head and said, No, I'm not helping anyone. It's just that I might walk the same path as them. Just as he finished speaking, Shimin Wuji suddenly stood up. His evil nether fan suddenly turned into a big fan and directly fanned towards the crowd. Suddenly, a gale roared, sand and stones flew, and a terrifying chi blade chopped towards Yuan Hua and others. Yuan Hua coldly snorted, and with a wave of his hand, the chi blade disappeared. Then he stretched out his hand and grabbed towards the three people. Mu Yu took out the Imperial Wind Pill that he had extorted from the old man. This was a 6th rank pill, specially used for escaping. Even a spirit-severing expert wouldn't be able to catch up with it. At that time, the old man had shamelessly given it to Mu Yu, but Mu Yu was reluctant to use it. After all, it was equivalent to having an extra life. But now he had no choice but to use it. Hold on tight, Luo Shang said in a heavy voice. The violent aura around his body suddenly dispersed, and the burning heaven sword in his hand was already unsheathed. A red light rose from the ground, and along with a sharp sword chi, it swept towards all the cultivators. Everyone was shocked to discover how strong Luo Shang was. If the cultivation of this sword was insufficient, then they would definitely be finished. You dare! Song Wanzi was furious. Luo Shang's sword chi chopped towards the cultivators. How could these people resist? With a wave of his hand, he turned around and appeared in front of everyone, intercepting the sword chi. Mu Yu took the Imperial Wind Pill. Mu Yu felt his body was as light as a swallow, and a surge of spiritual energy appeared in his body for no reason. This spiritual energy supported Mu Yu's whole body. Mu Yu shouted loudly, and his aura covered Shimin Wuji and Luo Shang. Luo Shang also fiercely clapped his hand, and a powerful spiritual energy flowed out from his hand. With a flash of red light, the three people suddenly disappeared in the air. There was no foresight, and they disappeared into thin air. What? Yuan Hua was shocked. He didn't know what had happened. Why did the three people disappear like this? He glanced towards the east, and the aura of the three people appeared there. Just as he was about to chase after them, White Ape Monster King suddenly slapped over. We haven't finished yet. Don't worry about others. White Ape Monster King seemed to have the intention to let Mu Yu and the others leave. With a smile on his face, he blocked Song Wanzi and Yuan Hua Daoist by himself. He was still calm and didn't even pant. If he really fought, these three seniors of the human race wouldn't be enough to deal with him. Chapter 289. 1,000 miles away from the eight-grass village, the void rippled and a red light flashed. Muyu and the other two stepped out. They shouldn't have chased us. Shimenwuji opened his fan and leisurely fanned himself. I think we should give the three of us a name. We can consider making our debut in the cultivation world. Muyu really wanted to slap Shimenwuji. While they were escaping, Shimenwuji kept muttering about the best trio, the most handsome trio in the cultivation world, the three young masters of the eight-grass village, and so on. He was as vulgar as he could be and didn't take escaping seriously at all. If the White Ape Demon King didn't deliberately let them go, they wouldn't have been able to escape so easily. As for why the White Ape Demon King helped them escape, was there even a need to ask? If the three of them escaped, what would the remaining human race use to fight the monster race? Muyu sat on the ground, panting. Although he could run faster after taking the Imperial Wind Pill, he still had to pay the price of consuming too much spiritual energy. After a long time, he asked, "Senior brother, why are you two here?" Luo Shang impatiently glanced at Muyu and said, "Do you think I want to come here? I came here to find you." So annoying. Next time, I'll let eldest senior brother do this kind of hard work himself. Luo Shang's tone was very dissatisfied. Last time, he caused trouble for him on the floating immortal island, and this time, he committed another crime. He felt that if it weren't for his status as second senior brother, he simply wouldn't care about Muyu's trivial matters. Muyu was too lazy to pay attention to this second senior brother's violent temper. There were many things that he didn't do on purpose. He was muddle-headed and got himself into a mess of trouble. When he heard Luo Shang's words, he said in surprise, "Eldest senior brother is also here. But how did you know I was here?" Luo Shang curled his lips and said, "Don't you know what eldest senior brother's ability is?" Eldest senior brother said that everyone has a special force field, especially the few of us. He placed a special metal on our bodies, and within a certain range, he could sense our location. A few days ago, he suddenly said that he sensed you, so he asked me to look for you. Muyu's eyes widened. He knew that Qingyan could control metal, but how come he didn't know when Muyu's body was stuffed with special metal? There's no need to think. Shadow Clone Sword, Luo Shang said. Qingyan added metal to the Shadow Clone Sword? This could explain why Muyu hadn't noticed. He recalled that when he was at Mount Fulong, Qingyan was actually able to find the cave of the wretched spider scorpion in the middle of the night. He must have relied on the Shadow Clone Sword to find Muyu. Where is he? Muyu asked. Shimenwuji interrupted. We came here specifically to investigate Yumon's matter. We stayed here for more than a month, but we didn't expect to find you. There's something wrong in the vicinity of Mist Breath City. Yumon is very frequent, so Qingyan went to investigate first and asked us to look for you. When you fought with the demons, Luo Shang already recognized your family's ancestral sword technique, Heavenly Sword 9 Guides. The Heavenly Sword 9 Guides was unparalleled in the world, and there were probably not many people who knew it now. Tian Ran knew this sword technique, but unfortunately, she was recuperating at that time, so she didn't see Muyu's sword technique. Shimenwuji, how do you know about the Heavenly Sword 9 Guides? I know a lot more than you think. I even know that you can control plants, Shimenwuji said proudly. Muyu didn't ask this question. This guy was crazy, but he seemed to have a good relationship with Luo Shang. Luo Shang probably told him. He thought of his master and quickly said, "Senior brother, master left Moyun Mountain Range. He said he was going to Siep Bulo to stop the demons from coming into being. They didn't continue because the demons had already come into being." Shimenwuji blinked and said, "With your master's cultivation, why is he going to find my master? Siep Bulo is your master?" Muyu was shocked. Shimenwuji was actually Siep Bulo's disciple. Shimenwuji felt that Muyu was making a fuss over nothing, but he seemed to have thought of something and said with a strange tone, "The famous sword shadow Chun Feng went to find Siep Bulo. That's not a good thing. Don't you know that my master Siep Bulo hates your master the most? When he took me in as his disciple, he made me swear that if I met sword shadow Chun Feng or his disciple, I would cut off his fingers first. Otherwise, my cultivation would be damaged and I would die suddenly." "You swore?" Muyu was stunned. Yes, I swore. Shimin Wuji nodded. And then? Muyu looked at Luo Shang, then looked at himself. This guy always appeared in front of them, talking and laughing. There's nothing else. What does this matter have to do with me? Shimin Wuji curled his lips. You swore a poison oath. I swore many poison oaths in my life, but none of them were fulfilled. If you want to hear it, I can give you one right now. Shimin Wuji laughed, then stretched out 4 fingers. I swear, all the beautiful girls in the cultivation world are pure with me. If there's even half a lie, may the heavens strike me with 5 lightning bolts. Suddenly, several black clouds floated in the sky, and faint thunder sound could be heard. But very quickly, the thunder dispersed. You see, even the lightning can't strike me, Shimin Wuji said complacently. Muyu finally understood why the people of the evil sects lived so carefree. They basically didn't fear karma and didn't need to think too much. As long as they were happy, everything was fine. Then we have to hurry and find Master. Muyu didn't know what kind of person Siebulo was, but from Shimin Wuji's tone, it seemed that Siebulo had a deep grudge against Sword Shadow Chinfeng. Sword Shadow Chunfeng's cultivation was only a Jindan period. If you want to find Siebulo, he would be courting death. However, Luo Shang shook his head and said, there's no need to rush. According to the current situation, Master should have already gone to find Siebulo. Siebulo and Demon Race's Patriarch Azure Dragon have a friendly relationship. They should have already finished the negotiations. Negotiations? What negotiations? Muyu asked, puzzled. Shimin Wuji closed his fan and said meaningfully, now that the Demon Race has come into being, the Threefold Palace won't sit idly by. However, the Threefold Palace didn't issue any orders to the other sects to deal with the Demon Race. This means that the Threefold Palace has already tacitly approved of the Demon Races coming into being. This time, the Yuman is becoming more and more rampant. Not only Lan Breath City, all the cities in the Threefold Continent were attacked by the Yuman. If we recklessly start a war with the Demon Race at this time, it would be extremely disadvantageous. In addition, the Demon King didn't kill anyone this time. If no one warned him, he wouldn't be so merciful to the human race. Luo Shang continued. Muyu also considered this problem. The demon race had been suppressed by the human race for thousands of years. When the white ape demon king came into being, he shouldn't be so merciful to the human race. However, during the competition, he told his own people not to injure the human race. This wasn't his style. With his cultivation, even if the young disciples of the human race were killed, no one would dare to settle the score with him. You guys have been investigating the Yuman situation. What did you guys find out? Muyu asked. Shimin Wuji and Luo Shang looked at each other and shook their heads. Clearly, I didn't find much. Luo Shang said, I followed the fire Yuman to their nest, but other than seeing them jumping around in the lava, there was nothing out of the ordinary. The people Yuman left outside are all shrimp soldiers and crab generals. The real powerful characters aren't here. Qingyan said that he found out that Jin Yuman seemed to be building a transmission array to go to the second layer of heaven. He originally wanted to borrow Jin Yuman's transmission array to go to the second layer of heaven to find you. Fortunately, you came out on your own, saving us the trouble of making a trip. Luo Shang shot a glance at Muyu. Clearly, Muyu was always looking for trouble for them. Muyu smiled awkwardly. In his heart, he was quite touched. When everyone in the world of cultivators was shouting to beat up Muyu, at least his martial brothers were still standing by his side. Then Muyu remembered that when he and Xiao Shui accidentally entered the territory of Yuman in the second layer of heaven. This meant that Yuman's footprints had already spread to the second layer of heaven. The spirit Qi in the second layer of heaven was extremely dense. It was very helpful for them to recover their strength. This was not good news. What's the name of that girl from the monster race? She's on the same side as us. We need to make things clear to her. Luo Shang mentioned Xiao Shui. He naturally recognized Xiao Shui's ability from the battle between Muyu and Xiao Shui. Muyu told Luo Shang about the matter of him and Xiao Shui in the second layer of heaven. For the first time, Luo Shang didn't say that Mu Yu was meddling in other people's business. He said, "You finally did something right." In that situation, Xiao Shui really had to be rescued. Mu Yu didn't know whether he should be happy or sad. After rescuing Xiao Shui, he almost died in the second layer of heaven. Luo Shang, this guy actually played it down. It was as if Mu Yu deserved to suffer in Xiao Shui's place. As for how he came out, Mu Yu also gave a rough explanation to Luo Shang. Shimen Wuji was very curious. He also wanted to take a look at the spirit Qi. However, Mu Yu told him that there was an unbearable pressure in the barrier of heaven and earth. If he didn't want to die, he could go and take a look. Only then did he give up on this idea. From now on, you just have to follow us obediently. Don't run around. We need to find eldest senior brother and then return to the 50-mile garden in the south. Luo Shang said. However, Mu Yu knew that there was one more thing he had to do. He had already obtained the 9 Qi soul cleansing flower and the netherworld grass. There was hope for his master to recover his cultivation. He had to return to the Pill Cauldron sect and ask the dead tree to help Feng Haochen refine the pills. Senior brother, you have to hurry and find master. Don't let him return to the Moyun mountain range. I have to return to the Pill Cauldron sect. The dead tree can help our master recover his cultivation. Mu Yu was worried that if his master returned to the Moyun mountain range, it would be troublesome for him to give the pills refined by the dead tree to his master. Mu Yu had already broken through to the out-of-body stage. He couldn't return to the Moyun mountain range. You better be careful when you return to the Pill Cauldron sect. That place doesn't welcome you now. Luo Shang knew that this matter was very troublesome. He and Shimen Wuji had to find Siebulo and see if they could find their master. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.